Call ourselves to order.
Do you have an extra pen?
Mine's good.
Mine too. Thank you. Do you have an extra pen?
I need mine.
You sure? Thank you so much. I'll put it in the box.
A couple of announcements before we start with the regular business. The Pawtucket School District is hosting their thought exchange from today until November 26th for the purpose of gathering information on perhaps changing the grade configuration. You can get involved with that. Go to the Pawtucket website. Glenn, do you have anything more to say about that? Okay.
The only thing I would say would be that we're going to be talking later, or maybe under future agenda items, is we're going to be asking them for a date to come in to talk to us about the update on the whole process about the MSBA.
Okay. And the day after Thanksgiving, the town offices are going to be closed to the public.
That means you have the day off.
Thank you.
It's my interpretation.
So we'd like to open a public hearing now in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, for the purpose of determining the minimum residential factor and rates for all classifications of properties: residential, commercial, industrial, open space, and personal properties.
That's all. But you need to, when you get it, talk right into it. I mean, put it right in front of you, please.
So what happens at the classification hearing is the Board of Selectmen needs to vote on 4 different issues. Selection of commercial, industrial, and personal factor, open space discount, a residential exemption, and a small commercial exemption. Right now, the residential versus commercial, we have a 97.2894 for residential. Open space is 0, and we don't charge for open space, and we have a very minimal chapter 61 and 61A, which is below 25%. The small commercial is 2.71. So the Board of Assessors recommends historically that we usually do a single tax rate instead of a split.
I'm just curious, has there ever been a time in West Newbury when that was not the case?
It hasn't, and it has never come up, unfortunately, because of such a small amount of commercial business. It would drive them out. And if we were to do a split, it would be a few pennies saving on the residential.
There'd be no impact.
There'd be no impact.
Okay.
So right now, we could give a residential factor of 1 would yield, this is only preliminary because we have not been certified through the DOR. We are certified through the values, but not certified through the tax rate recap yet. If we did a factor of 1, we'd have a single tax rate. It would change a penny. It would be $14.56 per thousand.
So based on that, the average tax bill would increase by $140 or 1.8%.
Yes, it'd be 1.8%, and the average assessment would be $539,137, and compared to last year's was $529,877, a difference of $140.12.
So that's good. A 1.8% average increase, and that would mean the average of the last 5 years would remain under 2%.
Yes, we've done very well with that, and that's due to new growth.
Under 2%, but what was the the evaluation, how much has that gone up? I see this historic tax rates here, in 92, it was $14.44, and what you're proposing tonight would be $14.56.
Yes.
So that doesn't look like a very big increase since 1992. But I would like to see another line there, historic tax rates, the rates, and then historic tax average bills to see what the increase or, you know what I mean by that?
The average bills.
Because that means, that really tells.
It really generates what we need to bring in to raise, the tax rate. So whatever we vote at town meeting is really, and whatever the public decides to vote is what we need to raise to bring it in.
And that's what I was talking about before, what you just said, the average tax bill, I think you said, in the last 5 years is under 2%. The average of the last 5 years is under 2%.
Is under 2%, an increase under 2%.
Yes, on average.
So that is factoring in the rate and the assessment
Yes.
Yeah.
at the same time.
And this year is only 1.8, which is good.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Well, under 1% is great.
That's great. So would the Board of Selectmen like to vote?
I move to adopt a single tax rate, which is a residential factor of 1, to not allow a residential exemption, to not allow a small commercial residential exemption, and to not allow a discount for property classified for open space to be applied for the fiscal year 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So I
What?
also would like,
Did I read it from somewhere? My notes.
Mind sending me that motion?
From last year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be specific to what you.
Okay. Yes, I'll send it to you.
so I also would like to have an insert be put into the bills. And it's from the Salem Registry of Deeds is offering a free service to monitor. If you sign up with the Registry of Deeds, they monitor any changes due to your property and deed. They'll let you know. And with a lot of cyber, stealing and a lot of fraud, that this is wonderful free service that you can sign up, and they'll let you know if there's a lien put on your home. A lot of people don't know, and anybody can put a lien on your home, and you wouldn't be notified. So it's a free service, and if you don't have email, they will call you. And a lot of seniors don't have emails, and they are targeted sometimes. So if they give a call and say, please let me know, and it's just one step safer to mitigating fraud behavior.
Sounds like
Has
a,
it-
go
How
ahead.
long has this thing been going on?
It's been going on for about 6 months, and 3 other communities have done it already, and we would be the 4th in Essex County.
How much is any additional cost of sending
So
out the tax bill?
it would be 10 cents an insert to put in, but it's free service for the public. So about
The
$200.
actual service is free, okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
service is free. It would cost $200 to put the insert in and to send it out to make
And
the
you have
public
that in
aware.
your budget?
I do, yeah. So I thought that would be a nice,
Terrific.
I think it's a good idea, yeah.
it's a great idea, and it just makes people feel safe. Your biggest property, is one of your assets is your home, and it's nice to know someone's watching out for you.
I'd make a motion that we allow Board of Assessors to put this in the.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, can I mention something to go back on that? I
Yes.
just wanted to say what a great packet you guys put together.
Thank
I mean,
you.
it looked like a lot of work, and it shows, and it really, somebody like me, made it very simple, big, bold letters.
No, it was excellent.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
it just made me understand it a lot. It was perfect, and I just wanted, it was a lot of work. I just want to make sure that you guys and the Board of Assessors realize
Thank
that
you.
people realize it when you do this, so thank you so much.
I didn't,
appreciate that.
this is the first time I've understood it, so it was,
Oh,
it
good.
was
I
really
tried to
good.
make it simple. Thank
you.
you. And then do you have any questions? The overlay has changed?
I don't.
No? Okay.
No, thank
So
you.
I just, let me find the page with I was just, the one that actually had the numbers of what, oh, here it is. So basically
So the past
the
five
overlay
years-
balance at the, so the line 2 is what goes into figuring the, so basically every year, it's about 130, 140 or something like
The
that?
past 5 years, it's been balancing out between 125 and 135, and it generates through the tax recap on what we need to raise. The DOR makes us put aside just enough to make sure we cover any uncollectibles, any pending ATB cases or potential exemptions, and it has you put aside so you're able to abate and have that. Now, there is a surplus, and the assessors can release it or be requested by the Board of Selectmen or a chief financial officer to ask to be released, and we can do that as well. We would like to make sure there's enough in January for the abatements, and then usually we wait around April, May, and if you're looking to have some release, we'll review it and release.
I concur with that. That makes sense.
Do you have so how much do we have in there now?
So right now,
Cumulative.
we have $336,459.47. The FY18 is generated
do.
135, 165.60. So a total with FY18 is 432,804.11. That being said, it's covering for any uncollectibles, any potential pending ATB cases, and any future liabilities we have. I'm guesstimating around 150 put aside just in case. So we're able to see what happens. I can't foresee what happens with abatements in January. We'll know in February what we've gotten, and then we'll have a better look at what we can release.
So you'll
But
have
there is
more
a good
firm
amount.
numbers at that
Yeah.
point.
So,
Okay.
so are there any, like, for years, we're waiting on Verizon and stuff.
We've closed that out.
So are there any other long-term ones like that?
We have one pending at the ATB right now, yeah.
So it looks like we have a kind of an average. We have an average over the last 5 years of around $38,000 that abatements that we've.
In exemptions, that's pretty much the standard exemptions abatements for the senior and elderly, and a few for the real estate that are either overassessed or, missing building or what have you.
With the upturn in the economy, have there been fewer receivables in the last couple of years, or pretty much the same?
We have 26,000 right now that is outstanding, which is excellent. Only 26,000, and I'm sure it will be collected. And if not, there'll be a lien on it, and then it will go into tax title for those people, and those people are aware, and they pretty much usually come through. Maybe 10 or 15,000 will end up in tax title.
Mr. Chairman, we also have a 99% collection rate, which is excellent.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions?
No. Nope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I want to reiterate what Glenn said. This was so helpful. I
I'm glad.
could figure it out.
I do
It
have
was
another
really
question.
well done.
So
Yep.
the overlay is a percentage. Is that a figure that's set by the state?
It generates through what we need to our budget. So the tax recap, when
percent-
we're putting, it's a percentage of the budget that we have. The DOI requires us to put aside, so it comes out as we fill our numbers in
Got
on
it.
what we need to do. And then, then we can release what we don't use, but you want to keep aside your potential liabilities.
So how long does somebody have to abate a tax? So when you say we keep it, like we have one pending, so that money obviously we wouldn't release until that is determined.
Right now, it's in the appellate tax board.
Yeah,
so
but
we'll-
it is what it is.
Yeah.
But so how long does somebody have to abate something? You know what I mean?
So they apply in January, and we have 90 days to approve it or deny it. If we deny it, then they go to the appellate tax board if they want to, or, then we have to wait for them. So right now, we have one pending, so it depends on January's when we meet. I don't know if they'll make a decision or if it will continue.
So just say that every single year we have just say because it's a percentage, $135,000 set aside for abatements or stuff like that. Okay, and that's in the previous year. So we're working in 2018 right now.
Right,
So and then in January, then they notify you that they want to abate something. Then
okay,
you have 90 days from that date
yes,
to decide, and then so theoretically, we would know if the 2018 money, unless it's encumbered in some way of a
Yes.
process that's in place, an abatement that's in place, or an ongoing one, we can give that back.
yes. If
in,
worst
in
case
2000
scenario,
and-
mhm.
in July of the next fiscal
Yep.
year.
We could do that. We want to be able to keep aside a certain amount just in case uncollectibles that we need for to have, things like that, potential liabilities of that case. So you want to keep aside, and the DOR really wants you to. Worst case scenario, we reach out at town meeting and ask them, can we, get it from free cash, but you don't want to have to do.
How much percentage is that? So when you say you wanna, so hypothetically,
I
just
want
in
to keep
case you-
150 aside at least, because those are my potential liabilities.
150?
Yeah, is what I was looking at, 150.
A
I'd like to
rolling of
keep.
150 at all times.
Yeah. And the rest would be surplus that I would suggest to my board, if they were interested in releasing today.
Unless you had some huge tax abatement, then of
Right.
course, but those are unforeseen.
Right.
Does this money earn interest or no?
No.
Okay. So I would ask that when you get those Januaries can you release up to 150 now?
I could. I'd rather not, look into a crystal ball. I'd like to wait till like April where I'd have a better, but, you could, if you wanted to, you could.
Well, she can release it now, but we can't spend it. It has
It
to be
would go into the
certified for
surplus.
free cash. It has to be certified.
And
we-
then in June, it would go to. free
Right, so we
cash.
can't spend it until next October, when free cash is certified. And that's the process.
That's correct. Okay.
Which is fine with me, as long as we get it.
We
We
know
just
it's
need-
there.
As long as we get it done in
Yep.
time to get it.
Like anytime
You're
you could
correct.
request for it
That's
to be
correct.
released.
Yes,
released.
yes.
That's why I was saying by the.
Yeah, but we should wait, let her find out what the January numbers are. And we can do it.
So-
In a mindset that I would like that, after you're done, get you 150 by the end of that fiscal year to start the next. I'd like to have it in the system, because after our Springtown meeting, we spend some, whatever it is, and then we wait from Springtown meeting to
So
our
in May,
certification.
we'll create a meeting at the Board of Assessors, and maybe you people would like to look over what you would like released, and
Yep.
we'll look it over and say, let's release
We'll have good
X,
numbers.
Y, Z,
Yep.
and then we go
With
to
your
put.
guidance, of course.
I would say 150 would
Because we
be
wouldn't
safe.
know.
If you didn't do anything, and so that presently, just approximately, so presently there's 400,000 there. So if you just left that,
Mhm.
would the DOR make you put an additional 130 in next fiscal year or not?
I reached out and asked them this year.
That's actually a good
And
question.
they say it generates through the tax recap, so yes, and it's always good to.
So we have to keep releasing
So,
it then.
so unless you release it, it's gonna
It's
get
going to
bigger.
build, that's right.
Okay,
Okay.
that's
right.
good to know.
No, yeah, that was the case. before.
It's also considered another reserve, just like stabilization and free cash.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's a safe fund to have.
But now it isn't per year, it's all the years are
All
lumped
years
together.
Tuned together.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that. That's
Okay.
why I want to get a system in place that we don't lump them in together, that you guys make a good comment. That's why I was trying to get a rolling average. So if you're comfortable with 150, next year, whatever the abatements are,
Yeah.
you give the abatements, and then at the end of June, you keep 150,
Yep.
and then release the rest of it
Yes.
back.
You're right, it should be part of
We
our
have
process.
to keep automatically doing that then,
Yep.
okay?
Yes, we were really waiting for, to find out when we should release it and, things of that nature. It wasn't requested, and we didn't release it, and we let it build.
Okay,
Because
We're good. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
Bye, Jim. Thanks for coming in.
Chief Reed?
Hi. How are you?
Evening.
Good evening. So, item on the agenda is to hire Kara Percival as a full-time dispatcher.
Correct, that would be replacing a vacancy we have for a full-time dispatcher.
If she's obviously a part-time dispatcher now,
Correct, she's been with the department for
you know,
I think about 13, 14 months now.
yeah, do we need more part-time dispatchers if that creates a void? Or not really, or,
The ones that, yes, we do.
okay,
Yes.
Probably a
I
stupid
guess the
question.
short answer is yes, we do,
okay.
yes.
Make a motion to appoint Kara C. Percival to a full-time dispatcher's position of the town of West Newbury.
Through what time period?
It would be the annual one to January 30th of 2018.
You mean June?
June.
June.
You said January.
I'm sorry, June.
Yeah, to get it all in sync, correct?
Yeah.
The tentative date for starting full-time would be December 1st.
Excuse me?
December 1st would
December
be
1st, okay.
technically her first full-time.
Have a second on that?
We did.
Archie
I did.
seconded it. Does it
Discussion?
meet- Does it,
No, she said really qualified.
that's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the board for me? While I'm here?
How about the hiring of a new officer? Any thoughts on that? Okay, it's not on the agenda.
You told me to keep you.
I know, I
You
know.
told me to keep you going because we have a big night tonight. You
Okay,
said,
I know.
if I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, it's
Okay.
hard for me.
Yeah, if he has to do it, you have to do it.
Okay.
How about if I wait till next meeting?
Okay,
So there is nothing else then?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Not that I know.
no.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. So she is through full-time.
Next item on the agenda is a request from Mr. Brackbill to put some Christmas tree signs up. The signs would be the intersection of Maple and Georgetown Road, one on the pole at Ash and Middle Street, and one in the Main and Crane Neck streets.
Did we already, I thought we already approved this, Mary.
No, he came in.
He came
when
in.
you first started talking about it.
Just to give his input.
Yes, so he wanted to put something in writing as.
So I
per
move
your
to
request.
approve the Crane Neck Christmas Tree Farm sign request as presented.
Well, with one caveat, do we have we don't really have the authority to approve putting something on a telephone pole.
Yes, so on town, to approve the request on town property. The pole is between him and the phone company.
With that,
On town property,
Yeah.
yes. So we're not approving
He puts it on
the
the
pole.
pole, puts it on the pole, but we didn't give permission to do it.
Right.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, excuse me, on the agenda is a contract from the Mass Cultural Council. Basically, we're agreeing to abide by the Cultural Council, from the money funding, $4,400 coming from the Commonwealth to support cultural councils in individual cities and towns. And we have to just abide by their regulations and sign the document to accept the $4,400.
Okay.
I make a.
This isn't new.
No, we do this annually.
Okay.
Yep, and this is the the woman who came in, we appointed her to this board,
Right.
our
Last
last
week.
meeting.
Yes.
Yep.
And the only thing, do we sign this and send this back to them? Do we CC our local
I've
council?
spoken with, them, and they know this is gonna be signed tonight, I'll give them copies.
Who's that?
I-
Our committee?
Yeah.
Local
okay. Rose,
cultural.
Terry,
Town one.
yes, yeah.
If you could just reiterate, I would, just for me, that if they could, when they're deciding these, if they could.
Think
strongly-
local.
Yeah, think local, exactly.
All in favor?
Well, did you make the
We-
Was there a
I made the
motion?
motion,
oh, okay.
yeah.
Guess I was
You
asleep.
made the motion, I seconded, and then we just,
Aye.
local thing of it.
Aye.
Aye.
Our next item on the agenda is, in light of the pretty heavy-duty windstorm we had a few weeks ago, we'd like to address how our
Just kind of critique.
utilities are responding to the problem.
Yeah, if you could, Mr. Chairman, Leanne?
Yes.
I asked for this to be on the agenda. This is something that,
Hi, Leanne.
Hi.
Leanne, that I worked on a couple of times with Leanne, just to try to get better after our conversation, our conference call, and then me talking to National Grid, and then we're talking to National Grid, and I just noticed the woman from National Grid saying, you know, you have a lot of people from your town talking to me and different names, and I wish. So then I just reached out to Leanne and said, hey, how can we do this all better?
Right, we're supposed to have one point of contact. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I said, how can we do it better? Because years and years and years and years ago, okay. Never
So
mind.
what you're
I'm
saying?
not-
So what I think what she's saying by that is, so if we have a question, direct it to.
Well, we're gonna read through this tonight.
Okay.
I'd like,
And the ultimate decision is up to the Board of Selectmen. So what I did was met with Glenn, we talked, we went over some of the trials and tribulations of the most recent power outage. And then I put together, the first page is just some.
which one?
Of
They've gotten two packets.
this one. So I also included the West Newbury Emergency Management Standard Operating Procedures for the West Newbury Public Safety Dispatcher.
So you're at the one that says
So
emergency
this one,
response.
and this was just guidance information. This was written back when Scott Birkenbush was the director of EMA, and I did update it and put the pretty logo on it for you guys. But it's something that the dispatch center has trained and had available to them. And it shows the notifications and how they happen to emergency management when there's something going on. And one of the reasons for not only providing it for you to have an idea of how EMA gets notified, but also there's no reason why the Board of Selectmen couldn't be added on to the notifications of when the deputy director, and different people are notified for an event in town, if you so chose. Obviously, from the emergency management
So who
perspective, we reach out to you.
who
if
is notifying?
we think
What are you
need.
talking about? Who is notifying who?
So if there's an event in town that's a major event, power outage,
Whatever it is.
flooding,
Right, whatever it is.
something, anything man-made or natural, the dispatch center would page out the emergency management director. If I don't answer in 10
Then they
minutes,
go to.
then they
right.
go to the next person, except for Seabrook Station, which has a little bit of a different
That's-
procedure.
Yeah.
Because there's a heck of a lot more people needed right away for any
Right.
Seabrook Station event. So that's really just background knowledge on how the EMA notification process
So they
works.
actually page, like with a pager?
Yep,
Oh.
yep, and if I don't answer within 10 minutes, then they're supposed to go on to the next person. If it's a critical event, if it's a message page, hey, somebody dropped something off for you, then I always try to call and acknowledge and let them know I got it, but it's not as critical as those
Okay.
actual events or potential events.
This is nothing new.
Yeah, it's what Scott did.
Yeah, this is
Yep.
something, and she's just updated it, taken some names
I
out
noticed,
of
yeah, I
it.
noticed Scott's name was
Name
still
of it.
on one of the lines, so I
So
corrected
this is
that.
something new, a procedure that should be in place and being adhered to now.
And then the other two pages, the first page, which is 2 pages double-sided, is just some guidance material about the different roles and responsibilities of the different agencies in town as perceived by the emergency management department and the state's emergency comprehensive management plan for emergencies. And then after meeting with Glenn, I worked with him just to this Town of West Newbury standard operating procedure for emergency response. Simply put, I took everything that we've been doing for 20 years since I've been involved with emergency management, long before I was the director, and wrote down how that notification happens. And starting with a declared event, if the state of Massachusetts is declaring an emergency event and we're then declaring a local state of emergency event, we know that we're communicating, right? Other events might be a requested event like this most recent power outage, which was only 300 and something homes. It was a small 17% of our town. I think it went up to 18% of our town at one point. But the response was very slow. So therefore, somebody needed to start interacting. We had a lot of different damages done in town, and we needed to be interacting with National Grid in order to facilitate that response, make sure they were aware of the power outages, where the trees were down, where the wires were down, where the poles were down.
And
So,
can I?
yeah.
And what National Grid at that time was kind of not getting missed messages. That's the reason why we kind of sat down, because they came back and said there was too many people contacting them.
From West Newbury.
Yeah, different people contacting them.
Who
from
said
West-
that?
The municipal liaisons, and if you look
Was
at
it,
the
was
path-
it more than just you two, though?
Yes,
Yes.
Oh.
which I knew.
I
the
only
de-
made a phone call
the-
once
the
to
dep-
her in the selectmen's office.
The deputy fire chief was in communication with one municipal liaison. I was in contact with another municipal liaison, although I was aware of that happening. And then, is the chief still here? I believe you were also maybe talking to the woman from Groveland some of the time, the municipal liaison. And National Grid has always asked us to have one contact person. That's not to say that that contact person is the only one talking to them, but it gets passed off similar to the incident command structure.
That makes sense.
So pretty much this plan is just laying out the things that have always happened that emergency management has done, the public safety complex being open, the fire department, and emergency management providing the water and the needs for people that are off-town water, that have wells that if they don't have a generator can't flush their toilets without some water, and for all the horse people and dog people that need water. We've always tried to accommodate even having 5-gallon jugs that people can fill up if they don't have their own water containers. That's one of the, believe it or not, the biggest needs in a power outage, that and maybe coming into the public safety complex to charge their phone. And then the dispatch center, really the hub of information for the town, is the one gathering information, communicating it, disseminating it out to emergency management if it's something that the police and fire aren't responding to right away. Is there some unmet need? The police chief working with the Council on Aging for unmet needs of any seniors. Reporting back to the emergency management director, reporting back to the selectmen on any events and updates that need, and working with the selectmen for public information dissemination, who's disseminating that information. I know Joe and Mary coordinated once I started getting you some information for updating the town website and the Facebook page and things like that. Questions?
So basically, this
I could
is,
babble all night long
Yeah.
probably, and I know you
this
have a
is
heavy
stuff
agenda.
that's been happening for 20 years, but we just kind of, because of turnover, because of new people, and even new people that are living in town, you know, because
Yeah.
kind of over the years, people kind of just knew what to do, residents and everybody, you know, they kind of knew what to do. So it might be good to be able to have this on paper, so we
So is there a question about it, or just want to talk about what the procedures are?
talk about
What could, what could we have done better, or if we'd been
better
more
line of
coordinated, would anything have been, would
better
the
line of-
results have been any different?
We don't know that, but a
Probably
better
not.
line of communication with National Grid and with one person, I think we could look at that point. But I think the situations are, you never know what you're gonna need, but you want everything in place, and you want everybody to know what's going on, because you don't have time to do that when an emergency arises.
And making sure now, when it's not an emergency, that we're all on the same page and kind of understand the flow of how things will be working. And then I would very much, and I think I mentioned in an email, like to request the selectmen set up or ask me to set up a meeting sometime with National Grid and our liaisons to go over our procedure, make sure that they understand that we are working with them and all on the same page, and politely asking why our response took so long for this particular storm. We were the only community in Essex County that actually had their outages go up, not down, after the first 24 hours. And that's never a good thing. Fortunately, it was only a few more houses, and we did keep working away at it, but I think it was the longest outage for me, which was, 4 3/4 days, I think. I know people in town have been out longer than that, so
And
I was...
when you say maybe two outcomes of this meeting, Leanne and I talked about this, and just wanted to bring it, ask your opinions, that being one of them. And the other one is we want to have a meeting with our department heads over this procedure. This is just something that has been going on, and Leanne was willing to sit down with people and see if we could even make it better if necessary, or get any input if necessary, or this is what we want to do.
And
So
the procedure, I think, comes from the selectmen, although I helped draft it because it's far-reaching. I'm fine if it comes from EMA, but certainly it would have to be at your direction and discretion.
So let me, just in terms of the power company, the liaison, is this an ad hoc person appointed on Thursday of the power outage, or have they been in this job for 5 years? In other words, do we get a different person every event, and does the phone number change at every event, or how does that work?
So there's three tiers of contact. The first one is the Storm Central office that opens, that dispatch is communicating with. And they have a procedure that they follow, determining what priority level the type of call is, and reporting it in to the center. Then, obviously, anybody reporting something, the dispatch is also reminding the resident that they need to be calling their specific address to National Grid for the power outage. So that's one level of communication that happens. Then we have a local liaison that is assigned to us temporarily during a storm event.
So that does change then.
Well, she has been assigned to us for several years.
Oh,
and I
okay.
got a little confused because I'm always talking to someone else who is our 24/7, all the time customer manager for the town of West Newbury. He manages 16 cities and towns, so during an event, they are also bringing in these other people from other offices, other tasks. I think our liaison is actually maybe in marketing during her real job, but she gets pulled off of that to coordinate response. And she did stop in, I learned, at the public safety complex. I didn't know it at the time, but I did learn she stopped in and not only talked to Ben, but also stopped in and
During the
checked on us
event?
as well. Yeah. And once I got the contact information and started communicating with her, she was very receptive to us, as well as Joe Morocco always is.
Okay,
So let's
recap.
and where should we go from here? Yeah.
What would you suggest? You think talking to some department heads, or you think, and then you maybe formulate something and come back to us, and then we can send it out, or what do you think?
Yeah, or we could send, if you read this through and you're comfortable with it, we could send it out to department heads, ask for their input, see if they agree with what's on it. Did they know that that was their responsibilities over the years? I think there's nothing on here that people aren't already aware of. Because it's really just putting to paper what we've all done for years, but there are a lot of new people, not only in dispatch, but in town and different positions, and this way it's more formally spelled out, so everybody has the same page, is on the same page. And then, we wrote it with the Board of Selectmen, everything's in coordination with the Board of Selectmen, because in the end, you're making the final decisions, we're just advising you from the knowledge that we have.
And one thing Leanne mentioned too when we were writing this, that, which we changed a few things and we wanted to discuss tonight, it said the chairperson of the Board of Selectmen. So we might want to maybe put that back in. I wanted to discuss with you guys about that, because during a situation like that, it's probably good to have one point person from the Board of Selectmen, and then they would inform the selectmen, you know, that one person then would inform the selectmen about what's going on, if any decisions needed to be made, and that individual would take care of that, and then disseminate that information back to emergency management. So I would
And none of
that.
this is replacing my multiple emails you love getting from me at all hours of the night, updating you on the storms and the power outages.
They're appreciated.
And the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, again, I believe, was back from Scott Birkenbush days, and he had multiple selectmen asking him questions all at once. He said, I need to talk to one. And the chairman can then disseminate the information out. Saying that the chairman is the one disseminating out the information is kind of, you'll notice I have an asterisk. The chairman could say, Selectman Kemper is going to be your contact person, or Selectman Anderson is going to be your contact person, but it would be up to the chairman to determine who would be that one liaison for the Board of Selectmen. Although you would all be getting
Well, I mean, there might
some
be a situation
communications.
where somebody's sick or someone's on vacation or something.
Similar to the incident command, you pass
you
off
gotta
your
be able to
responsibility.
pass the responsibility.
Yeah, that's when, like, that's when we, in the past, when we were, like, if I was the chairperson, if I was going away, I made sure I informed, you know, the selectman's administrative assistant, so then she could make sure somebody else, so somebody's not trying to get a hold of me if I'm away, if something happens in West Newbury, which happened once when I was in New York, and we had that big flood down in Pawtucket with all that.
They don't have phones in New York? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
When you're away, sometimes you look at them more often than not.
I have a question for council that I think I know the answer. If there's an event and we need to make a decision as a board, we can do that outside. Like, how do you do that posting a meeting?
Can you do it on the phone, or do you have to meet in one place?
He's going to say you have to meet here.
It wouldn't be
The open meeting
attendable.
law doesn't,
Right.
it doesn't envision that. I mean, they expect meetings of people physically
At least a
present.
quorum.
But you can meet anywhere.
A quorum.
I mean, you know, technically is that if two of you could be in one
Oh,
place.
if two of us live like 4 houses apart, one could, even in a 24-foot snowstorm, there would be a quorum. And then we could call the other
Yeah,
person.
as long
Yes.
as you have a quorum, the other person can do it remotely.
There you go.
Okay, so so we can move on from this.
So I think that
I
this,
think it's important that maybe let Leanne kind of be the front person, send it out, give her permission to send it out to everybody, ask for their feedback, and make sure they have an understanding of it. If they have questions, she'd probably be the best person to answer them at this point. And then when that gets finished, maybe she emails us back over a final document, so to speak.
sure.
I'm happy to do that. The other thing I should have started with is the reason in the past the emergency management director has been the liaison for this type of stuff is typically the fire chief, police chief, sergeants, assistant chiefs are busy out dealing with the downed trees, power lines, and things like that. So it's always been the emergency management is more the person making the conference calls and different things like that because they're tied up with the emergencies. Although
Makes sense to me. I mean, I just,
people are
I
always
just
invited.
like to
And I
know.
should have started with that to explain that for people that didn't know that.
Right, and I'd just like to know about, like, if there's a MEMA or National Grid, which you do. I mean, it's just, if I can listen, if I'm available, I like to listen, just
Yeah.
keep informed.
Yeah.
So that's good, so thank you for
It's
sending that.
always entertaining.
Thank
Right.
you very much.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks,
You're
Leanne.
welcome.
Thanks for taking the time to come in.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Next item, we'd like to converse with the FinCom on our thoughts and ideas about the forthcoming FY 2019 budget. It's only November, but actually there's a lot to do. We can't start too early.
Forbes is gonna hand out the schedule, but,
Excuse me, Chairman?
Yes.
There's been some, changes in FinCom with chairmanships. Could you just be up to date on that, please? If you could ask, you're the chairperson of the FinCom now?
my name is Tom Ellis, and I've just been voted unanimously, I believe, at the last meeting, and I accepted it with joy.
Okay.
So thank you.
Is there a vice chairperson?
There is a vice chairperson, thank you for that, it's Brad,
Thank you.
Thank you.
and Alyssa continues to be the secretary, and Carol helps with the minutes, and John does his usual, and
You don't have to go.
And-
Everybody's.
everybody knows John.
So along with that, just to publicly say, we have an opening on the Finance Committee, so if there's anybody listening on TV that would be, or that sees this subsequently, if they're interested in joining the Finance Committee or learning more, they can contact the Selectmen's office, and be happy to oblige.
Thank you for that. So we're going to do two things. One, we're going to discuss the schedule after I make some points here. So we're not going to look at the schedule at the moment. Again, I just want to remind you, we appreciate the ongoing communications that we have. We just appreciate that, so we just want to acknowledge that. We also appreciate the opportunity to partner with you guys, the Board of Selectmen, when the DLS consultant comes to town. We look forward to collaborating and participating from day one until completion if possible.
Yeah, just FYI, they sent me an email this morning, the DLS, and it'd probably be in 2018 when they, very early 2018 when they start their work.
Excellent.
So just so you know. That's what I asked him, and that was his response. So I'm just gonna let that sit. I'll push that.
I'd like to have, okay. Remind me on future agendas, I'd like to actually talk about that.
Sure.
Maybe in an upcoming meeting. But
Yeah, I don't think we know.
I understand, but. Okay.
Okay. We also look forward to supporting and collaborating on issues regarding the funding of the Pentucket Regional School District building project.
So are you going through your?
I'm just going through just some points that, I apologize, I didn't make any copies for you, but these are just my little quick notes. If you want, I'd be happy to get them for you. In fact,
It would be nice if you have those points that you want to talk to us about, if you have a copy of that, it would be good to give it to Mary so she doesn't have to write down every single one.
we will send it in the email as soon as we're done.
Of that, no, those
We
points.
just,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
we'll send that in tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I apologize for that.
That's okay.
All right. Also, we appreciate the Board of Selectmen's effort to pass on the proposed articles to FinCom as soon as possible so that we can work through the budget process. Again, we keep bringing this up each year, and you guys have been helping us out. So as soon as the articles come in and you feel comfortable sending them our way, we work with you, Mary. So again, we appreciate that. I just want to make note of that. We're also developing some additional processes to obtain status updates concerning prior money articles in terms of project completions, amount of fund actually spent, and et cetera.
Say it again. I'm sorry. Say it
I
again.
know what
I missed
in
it.
other words, do we have money left over after articles?
Oh, okay, what you've been
And
working
I'm
on.
going to
He's,
talk
trust
about
me,
that.
he's all over this.
I'm on
Okay,
that.
but we want to somehow, I think we were tasked for that. It's, I think it's number 8 on the, what to expect during the budget, the article process. Is it step number 8? I think it is, so. But
So,
good, so I know who to
I
contact.
got some info
Can we talk-
on that, yeah.
Okay, then.
Turn it on. I think you need to turn it
That
on.
one you have to turn on.
You could pull it off of there if
Yeah,
you
you
want.
can take it off also.
That way you can sit down, pass it around.
Here, does this work now?
Yes.
It doesn't do it in the room, it does it for home.
Last year, when we had a meeting just like this, we gave you that what to expect when you present articles or
yep.
budgets, and you asked us to add that as another item, and we've been working on it.
Okay, so that's why, it's going to be part of the process, this budgeting process?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We also look forward to working with the Finance Department and the Board of Selectmen in developing a policy for sunsetting money articles.
Yeah, that would be part of the motion when the motions are made, and we're going to do that.
Excellent. We just wanted to let you know that's on our radar.
Yep.
And finally, we're
But
actively working.
that would be the mechanism.
Sorry?
That would be the mechanism of how that would be accomplished. That's all.
Okay. We're actively working to develop the proposed policies regarding free cash and the stabilization/trust account. So we just want to let you know we're working on that, and we're pretty close to completion of some forms. So as soon as we can do that, we'll send it your way.
Good.
All right. Is there anything else that I left out, folks?
Can you actually elaborate on that one a little bit more?
The last point?
Please. Is it, you're working on, what are you working on, the free cash stabilization accounts, or what?
To speak about. What is that?
You need to use the microphone. Microphone.
And we've just been looking at possible ways to deal with free cash and trying to formalize a system so that doesn't kind of accumulate without someone kind of watching it.
Perfect.
So we're very close to coming to the conclusion. We just want to make sure we have something solid to present for your guys' review.
Excellent. I thought that might come to a screeching halt when we started talking about bringing DLS people in. And I hope that it can be working parallel, and then we can give some type of information when the DLS, you know what I mean? So it does not come to a screeching halt.
I think the DLS thing is more of a longer term, and I think from what I've heard from the Finance Committee at least, so that we can get something as part of our process, our budget process for right now. I think that's your intent, right?
So
Yes.
Okay, so good, because you were working on it, and I thought you guys came to a screeching halt when you heard that we wanted DLS to come in, so that's excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
And again, I think the nice thing is just by trying to put forth something that we all think seems to make sense, certainly we'll have these experts come in, but I think by giving them some place to start, they might look at it and say, this is crazy, we think you should do this. Or maybe they say, this is great, but here's our experience, maybe tweak these little things here.
Yep.
I think having somewhere to start is not a bad thing.
Yep.
Or they can say, I've never seen this before because a town has not had this luxury. And this is a great, you guys, good job for keeping ahead of this, and this is an excellent way of being fiscally responsible to the taxpayers.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Okay, well now, if you could just refer to the 2-page schedule. This is a familiar. This is the schedule, the proposed schedule for leading up in preparation for the 2018 spring town meeting. So these are proposed dates. We'll start off with December 1st. FinCom will be disseminating what to expect documents by email and also by paper to all of the committees and department heads just to help them out and, with the process.
So let's talk about the schedule as we go through it.
Sure.
So do you have a timing in your head for when the budgets would be due, or the proposed budgets from the department heads, and when you would be reviewing it with them?
Well, I was actually waiting for FinCom to let me know when they wanted to start the budget process, but I can get right on this as far as getting it out to them.
Wait, it looks
this-
like this schedule, Joe, answers that question, doesn't it? Or no?
No, because this date of 1/8 is the same as last year, so if you followed this, I just wondered if that was workable for you, because it's right before it's during the holidays, right after the holidays.
I don't think it'll be a problem. It might be a problem for some department heads. But I'll get right on it this week.
Excellent, thank you.
Well, it
Well,
would-
whoa. We, according to the new legislation, need to, whatever the wording was, formulate a budget message or messages in the calendar. And I think we kind of talked last week that we were going to have this discussion today, and then that we were going to formalize that at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's one of our new
Right.
charges.
That's
yeah.
in the legislation. So I don't know if I would do that before.
We have that
I'd
meeting.
wait till the next meeting.
Okay.
And there's still enough time, because that's still the end of November. Okay. So 1/9.
We would have that, and then we would you would get the feedback and the stuff from that, and then you would be able to take that in, and then you would send your paperwork out. You'd have plenty of time to send your paperwork out on that December 1st date, I think.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I don't think that messes up your time schedule, that's all.
Okay, that's how I heard it.
So I don't have dates in front of me because I'm not looking at an 18 calendar, but I'm just moving down your calendar here. 3/1, deadline for articles closed. Historically, we've done that, like last year, we did that on February 6th, so we'd probably want to do it sooner than 3/1. I'm just guessing, just not to speak for the board, but.
So that seems too late.
3/1 is way too late.
It seems to it.
Last year was
Yes.
February 6th, just as a
Yep.
talking point.
And you were using the 53 days of that, and you had 52 days in fall town meeting. So I guess you were saying, okay, that's going to be enough time. That's why you probably did that. But I think you might find there are more at a spring town meeting and more discussions and meetings and on your behalf too. So I think you might want to do that earlier also.
I think for
52
your best interest, you should
52 days
make
is
it
good for
earlier.
a fall
yeah.
town meeting, but I don't think it's good for
Right. And then historically, we've invited the superintendent, this is not on your calendar, but we've invited the superintendent and the school committee and also the Whittier superintendent
people
to come
too.
in and talk to us. So just as a suggestion, I don't know if you guys meet with them too, we could probably maybe have one meeting instead of having them come here twice. I don't know. Probably sometime in February, we should, is normally when we do that, towards the end of February.
Those meetings are more symbolic than.
But it's
It's an opportunity for us to ask them
We
questions.
can ask questions.
We want to
and,
have
yeah.
it, but there should be some dialogue between those with Andy, and with the Whittier and the business office of the school to get some numbers. You know
Before
what I mean?
that,
There's
oh, yeah.
always that going on.
But
Yeah,
like
that's-
last year, Whittier didn't have
Didn't have it. Yeah.
Whittier didn't have their final budget anywhere near when we could make use of it.
I'm not saying not having it, but I'm saying if we expect to get some hard numbers out of those meetings,
We may
going.
not.
We're not going.
Right. So then there's also a date, another thing to add, there's a date that Pentucket has to vote their assessment. It's somewhere around the first or
believe-
second week of March.
I was gonna say, it's usually about March
9th or
15th
9th
or
or
something.
9th or 10th.
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Last year it was the 10th, so
It's like isn't it in their thing? It's like the first meeting after.
it'd be
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, there's
it's
some
like
weird thing.
Thanksgiving.
it's a
There's
number of
specific
days.
day.
It's the number of days before the vote. I think it's the 11th actually, March 11th. So anyway, there's also a date. The capital improvements report is due to the selectmen. I'm just giving you things that aren't on the calendar. And we also scheduled the joint meeting that we have with with you and with the moderator, town council, with Andy. And then we have to post the warrant. There's a requirement. It'd be the Friday, probably again, I don't have a calendar, but it's usually a Friday, first week of April. So it's just there's some.
How many days again do we have, Mike, on that? 14 days, but not Saturdays and Sundays.
And the Patriots Day holiday, so it has to be
and the
Friday.
It doesn't matter. It's 14 days. It's probably about. It actually turns out to be like 17 days. So it'll be like.
April 8th. So as part of what we, with our budget message,
That's what it has to post. So you actually, it's actually like 3 weeks before, because that's when you have to.
we have to approve it before that, right?
So that would be like April 2nd, perhaps, yeah.
Right. So when we issue our budget message, we also have to issue a budget calendar. So we'll do that next week, next meeting.
Okay. And then we'll just look at that and we'll just adjust it accordingly.
It's the same, it's the same thing that you have here, but with some added things with it.
All right, awesome.
So you have town meeting is the 23rd, why?
It's the last Monday of April.
Yeah, so that would be the 30th.
It's actually not the last Monday. The 30th is the last Monday.
Yeah,
of
the
April.
30th.
That's the date of the town meeting, is the last Monday of April.
Yeah, but they have on here,
They've got the
24th.
Well, then
24th.
they're not right.
so we have to change that to the 30th, because it's the town
So
meeting
that
is the
allow-
30th, and then the town election is on the 7th of May.
No, not the 2nd, dude.
It's the 7th.
The 7th.
I said.
Yeah.
7th, first Monday in May, 7th.
So the warrant has to be posted. Now I have a calendar in front of me.
Yep.
The warrant has to be posted on the 13th of May, of April.
Mm-hmm. Easter Saturday.
What was that, April what?
Town meeting, April 30th. Right, Mike?
Yeah, but when was it posted?
13th. You have a puzzled look. No. Oh.
Thomas Jefferson's birthday. That has to be posted.
Just something to keep in mind. Do we want to? We don't necessarily have to talk about it now, but what do we want to? Just what's going to be our philosophy for
The budget?
budget for the next fiscal year? Are we going to?
Well, that's kind of what I was hoping
Yeah.
to hear from these guys, what their suggestions were, which is what you went through before.
That's right. Folks,
Good evening, John. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't think he wants to get away from those pleasantries and get to work.
Fire away. Fire at will.
Yes. This is my points. We didn't have quite enough time to discuss that upstairs before we came down. Restrain budget growth line by line as a way to approach the budget.
Can you define that? What's
Well,
restrained budget growth line by line?
We just don't automatically give the rate of growth because of this or that. There has to be some sort of justification and reconciliation and we might be looking at turnbacks from a line that we identified.
I go further. I agree. I go further. I think everything has to be justified.
Well, I was trying to start off easy. I could
Why?
get heavy in a moment, but I won't on that one. That we issue, and I would like to think that the BOS would do this as well, a preemptive statement about capital requests regarding free cash and the current sentiments that we gather from your board and generally from us, so that we restrain requested capital expenditures on free cash as a policy to start out with, at least. And
I think we have to get our capital budget. We got to get our arms around our capital budget. To accomplish that, we need to get our arms around it.
Well, you're presuming a hard line, and when I'm talking about these, you asked me to stand up here and give objectives and goals and
Yeah,
trends.
let him finish.
So that would be an
Okay,
objective to start off.
yeah.
I didn't put any
Not doing
dates
that.
on anything, but to make something work, you have to have it in mind all the time, and you have to be pursuing it and measuring stuff.
And that's kind of it on that. But I did have 2 points that in what Tom's presentation, but not in what he presented, but rather in the response from the board. And when he mentioned the sunset policy on articles, I don't remember if you said policy or not. And Joe said, yeah, we'll be looking at articles for that. I would like to see it considered as a policy.
Yeah, it's fine.
We
decided that last time.
And recognizing a department head's needs and the kinds of projects that there can be, that both entities, if necessary, actually negotiate a drop-dead date, because some things may require 20 months or 24 months, but yet you have to have the money to advertise for a job, to get a contract, where others, if they're of a different kind, they might cleanly, our expectation should be, no, you're going to do it in this operating season. So, but treat it in that fashion. So there's not just, we don't come up with an ad hoc statement from the Board of Selectmen or FinCom at town meeting, oh, let's put a three-year sunset on that. That may work sometimes, but I don't think it gives deference that maybe the department head or the article requester. So I would like to think that it's an active process and that it's a policy.
That's fair.
And I'll do this as a question. Would the Board of Selectmen be willing to accept new free cash stabilization policy in the face of an ongoing DLS study? You kind of talk nice about how we'll cooperate, we'll do this or that, and you said go ahead with it. But that's the hard question to you. Would you accept from the board a well thought out new policy while you still have an active DLS study?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the policy is. I mean,
Well,
we have to agree to the policy, obviously, but yeah.
Right,
Well,
because
well,
that's
not
a little.
accept it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I would say no. I mean, why are we having a study
Exactly.
if to see what somebody outside of our realm thinks and might have more experience than us? Why are we wasting their time if we're not going to listen to what they have to say?
Okay,
Well,
so
see-
I would say to that, why waste our time?
Okay, true, but I think I need to break that question down, John, even more by saying, I would like you to work on the free cash aspect of it and come back with us, not the stabilization and the capital improvements aspect of it. That's where I think we can get help more in DLS than the free cash portion of it, because that, for me, is very simplistic in the sense that our free cash grows every year. Well, I'm not going to get all into that, but that's, I actually would. What are they going to? What is DLS going to tell us with their expertise about?
Forget DLS.
Yeah.
I think that's where we part ways, though, on the free cash, because free cash is just not free cash as an island.
It's not an island.
There are many things that we spend free cash on, and the capital items are one of them. There's also, if I can find my list here, I mean, we add to the pension stabilization fund, snow and ice. There was an article for finance software, road improvements, which
Well, I understand
we
that.
could
That's
debate
one
that.
thing I was
There's
going-
a whole list of stuff. So we need those things budgeted.
No, okay.
We need them budgeted.
I understand that.
'Cause they have to be accounted for somewhere.
That's one thing I was going to ask the FinCom about, is that we need to start putting more things that are recurring costs, right? And even recurring capital costs, that we have capital costs. You know what I mean? Like a police cruiser.
That's a big one.
Right, opposed to a fire truck that might be 20 years out.
That's a capital. Yeah.
You know what I mean by that? Like is an ongoing every year. That should be in our operating budget.
Right, but we're not.
But hold on. So we need to wean ourselves, from free cash and start putting what it really costs the town in our omnibus budget.
Agree.
But I keep saying this, it's ultimately all comes from the same place.
I understand, but
if we budgeted something if.
Okay,
in-
hold
in-
on.
No,
I'll give you
no,
a-
let me
okay.
finish. If we needed to buy, I don't know, a mower, and we took it and we put it on the budget, and we said, okay, this is gonna cost $60,000, and we raised and appropriated the $60,000 to do that. It's actually no different than we raised and appropriated the $60,000 on some other line item previous years that didn't get spent. It's still coming from the taxpayer. It's not
well,
different, really.
No, yes, it is totally different, because you're looking, okay, so we've told the taxpayers that it's going to cost an estimate on how much it's going to run the town. So it's going to cost, when we do our budget, it's basically an estimate in the revenues, and we can't be that precise. So it's going to be $12, but we only spend $10. So you're saying then, so when we go in front of town meeting, there are some things that could turn back, paper or copy machines. Those things get turned back because those things we didn't need. Then, in our discretion, right, at our discretion, we're going to take that money that was taxed on something else and then spend it on something totally different, right? On a mower, we're going to spend it on something totally different, right? Because we have that excess money, rather than.
But the voters are doing it. We're not doing it willy-nilly. The voters are approving that.
Okay, but sometimes you have to. I personally believe you need to be more truthful on how much you need to run the town and how the money is being spent. And it's important, because
you're implying that we're putting something over on people.
But it's a lot easier to spend money that we have in free cash than really have a good understanding of what it costs to run the town and what it costs to save to run the town in an appropriate manner for stabilization and so forth and capital improvements. I mean, think about it. I mean.
It all comes from the same spot.
I totally agree with you.
Okay,
there.
okay, I'll be quiet. Mr. McGrath.
But the transparency is important on how we're spending their money.
Just for me, as one member of the Finance Committee, you can see then, regarding our initiatives to do whether it's free cash and stabilization or free cash alone, there's some instability that we're getting from guidance of what we think might happen. So that's for you guys to think about. And that's just for me. That's not from the board. This is a question of past policy or maybe bylaw. Do you use different cutoff dates for articles for special town meeting and annual town meeting? I have a memory of that occurring when I used to sit there.
No.
I don't think. Yes, there is a difference. Yeah. We just said it, that the fall town meeting is a tighter window, and the.
In April.
Yeah, what's the question?
Procedurally, do you have a different or
posting requirement?
No, that they have to
internal
receive the articles at a different date. The answer is no.
Your shut-off date when you put the word out, we're not accepting any more articles. If they're not in by noon today, you don't get them. Is that date
earlier
different between the spring special town meeting and the spring annual?
No, but he wants.
Okay, hold on. Is it Mike? No, it's up to us.
No, but there isn't. No.
I don't remember that, John. Okay. There could have happened, but I don't remember.
Fine. And I won't get into the previous discussion anymore.
I'd like to make a quick point for the Board of Selectmen with regard to how DLS is going to, how I believe DLS is going to look at the issues of free cash and stabilization. Part of the work that the committee has been doing to this to date is looking at comparable policies within other towns and what DLS's guidance has been. And they're rather unanimous in their point of view that the issue of reserves needs to be looked at as an entire entity, so that free cash needs to be measured and dealt with in the same way or as part of a bigger picture, along with stabilization funds, capital stabilization funds, overlays, and that their report, when they're done working with us, although, you know, it to be determined, but most likely based on what they do, how they work with other towns, will be a comprehensive view. That being said, being someone who's looked at 11 or 12 of these individual reports that they've done, our position with free cash is highly unusual.
Correct.
So it is possible that the recommendations that they would make, again, this is conjecture, but they may make a different recommendation, you know, based on our situation. But by and large, they say look at it as a whole.
Is look at it as a whole, and I would agree with that. But we have a very unique situation, and even the DSL people, through those, because I've looked at some too, we have a unique situation that another town doesn't have, is that we have so much of quote-unquote free cash, just that one free cash. So yes, they do look at it as a whole, and they might come back to, which we've heard through the years, come back with a recommendation of, you know, it needs to be 5 to 6% and stuff like that, you know what I mean? I agree with that. They need to look at it as a whole, but we need to get the number down and have a mechanism to keep that number down, and then they can determine what proper things and stuff with free cash.
They do that in their reports. And
I
so
would
when I say
agree.
they look at it as a whole, they do that, but then they provide recommendations for free cash separately from stabilization and how those should interact.
Because everything I've been told that it needs to be around 5 to 6% over the years, which with our operating budget, it should be around. I'm just going to guess around $800,000 to $900,000.
At the most.
At the most, right? Yes. If we were like every other town that they have given reports to, then they recommend that. I'm looking to have a mechanism to get our number down to that appropriate amount, right? And make sure it stays there, and then they give us a recommendation how financially to run the town.
Correct. And again, as part of the background of this, that's what the Finance Committee has been working on, and we will continue to work on. I just wanted to make that point of
That's
clarification.
my point by that. I agree with everything that you're saying, but I think it's just a better being more transparent. And it's a lot easier to spend money for people when it's in free cash. You're right, because if we didn't have the amount of free cash and that we had when we went through those fiscal tough times, we might have not made those easy choices of just taking them off of our omnibus budget and paying them by free cash, right? And we wouldn't have broke a good principle of just paying capital improvements out of free cash and not going through the process of the stabilization account and getting the 2/3 vote and so forth and so on. What this town, when you say they vote for it, Archie, I agree they do, but they're giving information. They don't have all the back channels and the understanding that, you know, look how long it's taken us, and we have all the information at our hands about how to wrap ourselves around free cash. We still haven't. So we can't expect the taxpayers sitting at town meeting to say, oh, well, they vote for it anyway, and understanding where the money really is coming from, that it came from prior, you know, they were overtaxed.
But then they're undertaxed the next year. If you had to buy the fire truck and you had to raise and appropriate $800,000 for the fire truck, then you have to pay it this year. You still have to pay it.
I understand, but I'm just talking about better accounting principles.
I agree.
Doing it. That's all. I agree with you totally. It all comes from the same well. It's not like we have
I don't
free
want
cash,
people to get
a special tree
get
out
the
there.
idea that this free cash was something that was being put over on people that
and people might think we're talking too much about this, but I think it's something that we need to talk about.
and
because
remember
we've always talked
okay,
about it and
remember
then ended
also that
and never done anything.
it's a good problem. Everyone talks about it like it's the end of the world. We're doing okay.
Yeah, but see, we could do better
Okay.
with being more transparent to the taxpayers.
Okay, we kind of go off
Yeah.
on a topic. Just bringing this back to next year's budget. Is there any other things that you guys have talked about that we should take into account with budgeting next year?
No, but we definitely, this evening, we definitely will come up with a draft that you'll hear from us soon. If there's anything else,
Okay, yeah, send us an email, because we've got to finalize that 2 weeks from today.
And I do appreciate hearing your point that, that it just needs to be transparent. It's really a good thing that we're having this discussion. And,
Well, that's Glenn's opinion.
I apologize.
What?
My
opinion is it's good to be transparent?
You said that we're not being transparent.
No, I said we could be more transparent. I'm not saying that we haven't been transparent.
Yeah, I don't want that to get
No, no,
up,
but
to
people
seem
have
like
that.
we're not telling people what we're doing.
That's,
I
yeah,
think-
I vehemently
No, no, no,
disagree
no.
with that.
I never,
completely
I
disagree
never
with that.
ever said that. We're not telling anybody. I think it's important. I said we can be more transparent and a better understanding. If we don't even understand it and we have to call in.
Well,
a
and that's another thing you
consultant-
said, that we don't know where we're at budget. I mean, I don't forget your words, so you could repeat them, but there were a couple things that you said that that we don't know where we're at budget, whatever, I don't know what it was.
I don't know. I mean, if you want to write it down, but you're at, when you said, well, they know, they vote for it, and I agree with that, Archie, right? But then when they're voting for it, maybe we should be more transparent than if you want to do it that way, and telling them, this money is free cash, this is extra money that you were taxed in previous years that have now gone to this thing, and then we have this, I mean, you're asking people to understand something in the voting process that we have to call in a consultant to try to help us with future planning.
No.
So why are we calling them in?
Which one? But
We're trying to we have
we're
a good
trying to
situation
we
that
have
we're
a
trying to
great-
optimize.
A well-running town, and we want to run
I
it better.
understand,
But we're not hiding anything.
Yeah, that's,
But I'm not saying we're hiding anything.
Well, you just did.
But we are the exception, not the norm, right? when
We're
it
a
comes to-
good exception. Other
I
towns
agree
would
with-
kill
I-
to be in our position.
Well, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But I agree with you, it's a good situation. But I'm just saying, with that amount of okay, it's very simple.
Would you rather have like a $2 million deficit?
But see, that's ridiculous. Of course I would.
But you act, you,
No,
you.
I don't. I just said that we should bring it down to probably $800,000 and have a mechanism that free cash doesn't rise right to the levels that it is. That's all I want.
Mr. McGrath?
For a moment of levity, as a left-handed person and as an engineer, some of this absence of definition and clarity is a little bit confusing for me. David, a little while ago, you gave the dichotomy of from free cash or on the tax rate. What you didn't mention was stabilization, and that's where that mower should have been paid from. And you're saying, I'm going to preempt your next statement. Well, what's the difference of putting it in off the tax rate and then taking it back out? But the point is, it levels the drawdown. It's predictable how much we want to put in, and we have a CIC cycle, and if it's properly actuarially laid out and so on, you have an even amount in erratic amounts out by time and amount. That's part of that answer. And to Mr. Kemper, he's twice mentioned free cash, and he uses a number. I've written a little piece of business I've sent to the FinCom, and it's small and it's simple, but it insists on defining, when you use the term free cash, you need to put a time on it when. So I don't see that we ever had $1.8 million free cash. That's what came out of the certification. But ideally, when you leave annual town meeting in April, the residue from at that point, that's truly what your free cash is, because that's the carry forward to the next year. And I think if we all gathered if we all agreed, when we use the term free cash, we also apply when you're speaking of the amount.
That's a very good point, Joy, because it is a fluctuating amount.
Mm-hmm. But just to, because it seems like we've changed on this, and I don't know why.
Changed.
Or maybe I thought this board in the last couple of years, because we've had discussions, just to make it very simplistic so we can move on, that free cash was too high. Okay? And this board,
we're all in agreement.
Yep. And this board has taken some mechanisms to try to draw down free cash and be able to draw down the tax rate.
We haven't been as successful as we would have liked to have been.
Exactly, because we've sat here and said, oh my word, how is it back up to that level
Yeah.
again? We've said that as a board.
Yep.
So all I'm asking, maybe, you're right, Archie. It's a great problem to have, right? And I don't even consider it a problem, right? But I'm just looking that we take some good measures to make sure that I thought what we wanted, but maybe it was changed, that we want to draw that down to a reasonable level and take some mechanisms to be able to keep it there.
I think we do. I think what we're
Okay,
debating
then
is,
that's it.
I think what we're debating is how we do that.
Okay, exactly. And I think there's a philosophy of giving it back to the taxpayers, just giving it back to the taxpayers in a tax drawdown, or giving it back to the taxpayers with articles. Because you're basically giving it back to the taxpayers with articles, you know what I mean?
No, I don't know what
well,
you mean.
because instead of, you're giving the money back, if you're buying the mower, or if you're buying whatever that list that you had, you're basically.
I just read what was spent in the last 3 years.
I'm just saying.
I mean,
So you're giving it
I
back
just
to them, so
like-
you
I
don't
just
have to
don't
put it on
like
the
the
taxpayer.
idea that there's this idea that because it's in free cash, we're more profligate with our spending, and that if we didn't have the free cash, then, well, maybe we won't buy the mower after all. I don't want it to seem that that's what we're doing. I decide whether I like the mower on the basis of whether we need it, not whether it's coming from free cash or if we have to raise the money.
So,
Okay.
we'll save another day,
Okay.
because this is going to be part of I think we're as a board are going to have a meeting about this next week, a budgeting meeting. Not next week, our next meeting.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it then, about the budget.
Okay, thanks for keeping our eye on the ball. And
So thank you for this fruitful discussion. And the action item for me is that I'll just list the Mary of the 6 points that I mentioned for your review. And also going forward into 2018, if FinCom has any suggestions.
and we'll rejigger the dates of everything, and
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think as we go through the first quarter, it would be good if we met a couple of times along the way and kind of keep each other apprised of where we're at. I think in the past that there was, and you guys, I feel like you guys are starting earlier this year, but in the past I think there was a sense that you were behind and basically didn't have time. So that'd be a good thing if we talked a little bit.
Could I just elaborate maybe on one point of agreement? I think Selectman Anderson had mentioned before that we try to be on top of the sunset clauses for the articles. I wonder if you guys thought it'd be smart to maybe add that line to the article request form, like just ask them when they're applying, what do you guys think for a sunset clause? Do you need 2 years, 10 years, 1 year? That way, if it's on the form, we at least have a starting point so we don't forget to do it.
That's a great place to put it.
How long do you think it's going to take to accomplish this task? Yes.
Right. But at least that way it's on the form, so at least we're all thinking about it, so when we review it, when the article comes in, we just don't forget to.
Well, I think we should be more overt, like, yes, to what you just said, but ask, what should the sunset or term, I don't know how to word it, but
Well, it is.
It's like anything, probably, we don't know. It's like, you're the
It's a good
fire
point.
chief, tell us how much time you need for this, it's reasonable, and then we'll give you that.
It's a good point that goes to what Mr. McGrath said, rather than having a one date or a year policy, make sure it's unique to each individual article, because it will change depending on the article.
Oh,
And
yeah.
maybe internally we can just
easily
know.
go in the motion. We can just change it at the last second.
And that's a great idea. We'll start with the requester, and then, we ultimately decide what the motion is.
And it can be part of your rationale. So people get a good understanding when the money's going to be spent and projected and when it's going to be finished.
Expected as much, but I thought we'd just end on a note of agreement.
Very good.
I think we all agree. It's just how we're going to get there.
Yes.
We all agree. And one thing I'd like to say is that it has been noticed about the FinCom, about how much you guys are meeting and getting organized, and it's appreciated. Thank you very much. You guys have been very committed, and you guys are doing a lot of great work, and thank you for that. You guys are meeting more than I've seen other FinComs meet, so at this time of the year, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, especially that FinCom from 5 or 6 years ago. It's us. Yeah. Oh, I know. You're right. Mr. Backrack.
Mr. Backrack.
Mr. Backrack.
Good evening, Mr. Backrack. Frank. Archie's neighbor. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I'll find out.
You're up. Good evening.
How are you guys?
Good.
All right. Tom, you wanna sit
Your
here?
pen and paper out, are you doing homework, or are you designated to take notes? Good for you. Welcome.
Well, thank you for seeing us tonight. I know you had a pretty busy schedule. What we want to talk to you tonight about is what Parks and Rec have been working on, and the team that's been working on is myself, Bill Backrack, Tom Flaherty, Jack Duggan's been helping us, Frank Sisto, and Audrey. And what we've been looking at is expansion in terms of, we looked at it from three or four different ways. The first one was the priorities that was done in 2010 in terms of some of the items that the town would like to do in terms of more recreational. All right, and if you take a look, that was on slide number 4 that we talked about, an all-purpose athletic field, an enclosed dog park, walking and fitness trail, senior center, indoor swimming pool, and then tennis court and battle ball court. What was good about the survey, it also pointed out about the outdoor basketball, and as you know, that was already put in place in Action Cove. The next thing we started looking at was actual activities, and that's page number 5. And we sent out a survey to all the organizations that use the bachelor fields, use the pipe stave, and also use Page School. As you know, Page School is used for softball, bachelor's used for Little League and soccer, and then pipe staves used for a variety of different activities. And I think what became extremely clear to us as we started down this path, and these are estimates, was the number of days a week that these activities were used, number of hours, and the number of weeks. And if you take a look, what was really encouraging was grades 1 to 6. The number of participants in different sports has increased from 605 to 930. Now these are estimates, which is approximately about a 50% increase since 2013, of which if you take flag football out, which is a new sport that was done a couple of years ago, it's about 30% without that.
So just to clarify, you're saying from 2013 to 2017, the participation increased from 605 to 930 approximately?
That's correct.
Okay.
What also we started taking a look at was Pentucket High School and the use of the pipe stave facility, all right, which is fine, no issues. They have freshman baseball, cross-country, lacrosse, rugby, and soccer. We know that, you know, there's plans on putting in the new school, both middle and high school. The question becomes, you know, how many fields are they going to put in, and are there enough fields? Overall, pipe stave is estimated in the fall used for activities between $600 and $700, and spring about $850 to $950. If you go up there on any weekend, it is quite populated. So we started looking at different areas. We could have, and we did, look at, for example, the enclosed dog park. We could have looked at different areas, Mill Pond, Garden Street, Action Cove. Frank and Audrey are the ones that started this, and you'll see there are pictures of different dog parks. There's 583 dog licenses in 2016. Groveland's Dog Park, for those of you who may not know, is behind the baseball field.
Wow. Do they have problems with that?
Apparently not. Frank? Yeah.
Excuse me. Do you mind just grabbing a mic? You can sit with it, sir. You just grab it so people at home could hear you, please.
The reason I asked you that is I like
At
the idea of,
Pines? Is it at the Pines? You mean?
the reason I asked the question. The reason I asked the question is I'm all for the concept of a dog park. When I go to watch soccer games at Pentucket, there's like people with dogs all over like walking on the turf, their dog on the turf field, which I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I don't think that they should be doing that, but it's not my field.
So Joe, if I could address that one, you're absolutely right. At Pines, there are signs posted. I am anecdotal because I am just one data point of experience, but we've been going to that dog park pretty regularly. The community that is at the dog park is pretty respectful of that. We've never seen anybody on the ball fields, but I mean, it's entirely a valid concern.
I have.
Well, over at Pines you have?
He's talking about Groveland.
Oh, not in Groveland. I don't go to Groveland.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So, okay, yeah. So no, talking about Pines, right?
Sorry.
So I mean, they're pretty respectful of the space. They keep the space up on the whole. It's pretty self-managing. So I mean, the concerns to the ball field, fair enough. To Bill's point about whether there's been any issues and any concerns. I mean, to be honest, we're pretty sporadic there. Maybe every few weeks we go there. But I mean, we've been going now about 6 months or so since we got the new dog, and I mean, I haven't been made aware of anything. But again, I'm just anecdotal.
Is there any in-town versus out-of-town restrictions or anything like that, or no?
In Groveland, you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, it's a space open to all. They make some light provisions. The town does. I mean, there's trash pickup there. Of course, as Bill mentioned, it's closed in, it's fenced in. So the community itself, brings dog toys, brings some furniture. I mean, I think maybe the town provides a picnic table or two as well. So I mean, it's pretty self-managing for the most part.
I like the idea of a dog park, and I know Bill came in to talk about your fields. We're off on a little tangent here, but
no, it's part of it, though. I think.
Yeah, it's part of the land.
Actually, I didn't get into the bigger thing, Joe. What we're looking at is the Dunn property, and we'll get into the dog park in a minute.
Okay.
And the different components that could make up that Dunn property in a conceptual design, right, in order to expand the recreational facilities from Pipe State to, which would include the Dunn property, which also would include parking as well. To add into Frank's thing on the dog park, if you take a look, and Frank can talk about it, not only did we look at Groveland, but we did also look at other areas. So, for example, Brunswick, Maine, New York City has dog parks. And then there's one in Cromwell, Connecticut that was of interest because of the agility. So depending upon how things get set up, we could bring in a variety of different ways to develop an enclosed dog park. What was interesting is when we went and looked at it from a detail level, it seems dog parks are regulated at a local level, not at a state level. And go ahead, Frank. I know you've spent a lot of time, you and Audrey, a lot of time on dog parks. I don't know how much more.
What locations have you, I know you've looked at alternatives, but what locations have you considered?
Well, there's been a few locations. One of the spots we were looking at, and this is separate from Bill's initiative. This was an initiative, frankly, Audrey had started, and just her and I had actually started chasing it down and started scouting it around. Our initial reaction was the area right behind Action Cove, that sort of right behind it, sort of where the porta potty is, basically as an entrance, then kind of crawling around the back of it. So that was one possibility. Another possibility was we're looking at an area just at the entrance of Mill Pond. So, and I'm lousy at describing these things, but if you're coming in on 113, you make a right, you go down a hill at Dog Legs to the right. You come to an entrance that has a signpost standing there where people would post and whatnot, and then there's like a chain link connection, and there's just kind of an open field. I don't know really how to describe it, but that looked great because that looked like an area that, I mean, just frankly is pretty underutilized. Plus it's open. When I met with Mill Pond Committee, they kind of were not the warmest to the idea. So,
What was their objection?
the objection was, according to, who's the gentleman I spoke to? Jamie. You tell him the objection. No, I'll tell you. So to Jamie's point, so my discussion with Jamie was that according to, and again, I hadn't looked into this, just taking Jamie at his word, was that permanent structures were not allowed on the grounds.
I think that's right.
To Mill Pond, and to the point that I went to that was we didn't really need to do a permanent structure. So permanent structure can mean a lot of things, but one can do a temporary structure that is permanently there, if you would. So we don't have to.
Sounds like
build,
lawyer speak.
Well, it's not lawyers speak. I mean, but it's reality, right? So I mean, one could make a structure that is portable, that is above ground, that does not require cement footings, that does not require structure, if you would, beyond just protecting the dogs. And all that could be done up ground, and all that could be rolled up in the winter or be made portable. Or, but like I said, I mean, there would seem to be a lack of enthusiasm for the idea. So, and there may be some more slam dunk reasons as to I don't know the tenets as to what is allowed or not allowed at Mill Pond. So that was just an offhand meeting that I had. Let's see, another area we were looking at was Laurel Grange?
Garden Street.
Yeah, so on Garden Street, Laurel Grange, there's this whole lot to the side of it. My understanding is that's private property, and it is not town property. So that actually looked like a pretty good spot as well, between Laurel Grange and the fire station.
Yeah.
Is that, Mike?
The property for that fire station was given to us by, I think, Laurel Grange to be able to have the fire station there. And there was talk when we thought about closing that particular place and maybe doing something else down there that we couldn't, because I think it was for the sole purpose of having the fire station there. So I'm not and I think Mike's going to actually correct me and or add to that. But
okay. So to Joe. So
it was a restriction, but that expired. So there's no restriction to it now.
Okay. Well, you didn't tell me that.
But
so to Joe's.
But we couldn't do anything on Laurel Grange. So you're right, that is private land. I'm not sure where the line is.
Right.
You know what I mean? So whatever the land that was carved out for the fire station would be where the restriction has expired.
Okay.
Not.
So to answer your question,
And I don't think
So we don't know.
But I don't think that's too big.
Yeah, not enough. Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. So what other questions?
There is space.
I'd rather not spend the whole time talking about dog parks tonight and talk about the whole concept.
So let me.
Not that I don't want. I mean, because I think that's a terrific idea.
Okay. So what we did is we said, let's step back.
Sorry, Bill.
It's all right. You did great. Let's step back. So we started to take a look, in the one area that we felt that we could take a look at in terms of trying to develop a conceptual design, because one thing we didn't want to come in with, we want to become in as detailed as possible on a plan that would encompass as many activities as possible within that Dunn property, which is 75 acres. It's 1.75 million that was purchased in 2001. You all know that. The final payment is in 2020. So one of the things that we talked about, and Jack brought it up, and we thought it was a great idea, is we should really come in with a much more detailed plan, and what would it look like, and what needs to be done. And so Jack talked about Wentworth Institute and their capstone projects that are done by their seniors, which is really would be great. Jack, do you want to spend a minute or two talking about capstone projects to sort of fill in the Board of Selectmen?
So, capstone projects are the final effort of a 4-year undergraduate degree in civil engineering at Wentworth, like they are at any other accredited engineering school. At Wentworth, what we do is we have groups of 5 or so students. They're all civil engineers that work on different aspects of civil engineering. So one might be geotechnical engineer, structural, environmental, transportation, and maybe site development. Typically, they work on a project that puts all of the elements together in a comprehensive conceptual design. So when Bill and I were speaking, I mentioned to him that a project like the Dunn property, where you might have several different elements, including parking, possibly drainage, other types of infrastructure, grading for parks, for golf. These are things that we do on a routine basis. There's probably one or two projects every year that's very similar. So our projects start in May. They're 2 semesters. We finish up in August. They're really pretty impressive projects after all is said and done.
Jack, it's, I think, January, right? You said May, I think.
Yeah, well, the projects begin in May. Well, I'm sorry. They do begin in the spring semester. So they begin in January. They have an interim finish in May, and then they start up again the second semester in the summertime.
So what's the difference between what they do, that's great, and a actual engineering and design firm that actually lays it out? From a layman.
Money.
Well, the cost of it, yeah, obviously.
Well, the difference is they're not going to be stamped by a professional engineer. The conceptual plan that you would get would give you a pretty good feeling for what the layout might look like.
What the options could be.
What the options would
That's
be.
good.
What the land would be able to take.
What about things like soil testing and stuff like that?
Yeah,
No.
No. Right.
This is all about land management, you could kind of say, like what you could, you have a conceptual things, what you want to do. This is the land, this is the topography, this is what you have, and this is what we could fit on this particular land to try to fit the needs or the scope of what you set them out to do, kind of, right?
Yes, in a sense. These are civil engineering students that are, they've got some municipal planning, they're familiar with setbacks and offset requirements, they're familiar with stormwater design, so they have a sense of what a
pretty comprehensive
25 and 100-year storm would look like.
Oh, I think it's a good idea.
They have a sense of how to size a parking lot based on the expected use. So they have a sense of municipal planning and engineering design, but what you're going to come short of is you wouldn't get a stamped plan by a registered professional engineer. You would get a conceptual design that get a better sense of what your options would be, based on assumptions.
But I think,
perhaps.
but I think, Jack, I think what's really important about this is for the $1,000 that we were asking for, you'd get the conceptual design. That design would then come to the Board of Selectmen, and we can then talk about whether you want to move forward or not. That's when you start spending the $10,000 or $15,000 to get the more certified and deeper engineering. So I think that's the key. And that's one of the things that we felt, if we were going to do such a big plan or a big idea in terms of conceptual ideas, of course we'll try to give you the costing and stuff, that this would be a good first start, and it would be a minimal amount of funds to have to be.
This isn't, we've done this before, actually. These Board of Selectmen have done this with Ray Cook and his students up at UNH. So we've done actually this. And they,
For this particular project?
no, I'm sorry, this concept, this.
Was that for the bridge across? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they're seniors, and we had a good comprehensive plan, and I think they worked in groups of like 2, just say that, and we had 3 plans that came forward to us about trying to alleviate the problem of getting people from Pipestave over to Page, and they really, I mean, they were quality work of setbacks and design and stormwater and understanding of state law and state streets, and they gave us some good plans on having bridges and so forth and so on. So
you might think of it as these students are going to give you some sweat equity, give you to a big favor for you, but in reality, having an opportunity to do this project with access to resources and details and plans and real-life settings, you'd be doing a huge favor to this group of students. So it really would be a win-win situation.
No, I think it's a great idea, because then it'll give us, like, what are our variables, and also by the time they're able to complete that, we'll know better where Pentucket's going also, because according to what Dr. Mulqueen presented to the Groveland Board of Selectmen a couple of weeks ago, the schematic design, which includes the athletic field design, will be completed sometime in the spring.
That's reasonable.
So, well, that's good.
So basically, in a nutshell, you've done surveys, you've talked to people. Obviously, if anybody has driven or anybody has been part of any activity other coming out of their home realizes that our fields in that respect are overused. And we have kind of a space problem up here too because of parking. And so forth and so on. And then we have this adjacent land next door that we bought, obviously, that has been underutilized. We have some trails in there now that have been utilized in recent years. And then you want to start maybe a plan and look at it to try to be able to utilize that land for the townspeople.
So, yeah, so it's a good.
So where would the money? Now you're here tonight, getting an okay. Start this with Wentworth and looking for some funding
for the $1,000.
Right, and the funding's $1,000 because Parks and Rec doesn't have it.
So I would make a motion.
Are we still in discussion?
Sure.
Okay. So the $1 million question, and Glenn kind of touched on it a little bit. And I know you don't know what the thing's going to cost, but you know, where's the money going to come from, though, no matter what it costs?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that we can look at, Joe, and I think, you know, there's three areas, right? There's one is to get a bond out, but the question becomes how much, right, do you want to spend?
Mm-hmm.
The second is CPA. CPA is $2.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third, I think you talked about Parks Grant to me the other.
Right.
I have to take a look at. So those are the three areas.
I'm sorry, Bill, what was the last thing?
Parks Grant.
The park.
Okay.
But to answer your question, Joe, I don't know because depending upon what you can fit in. So, for example, the dog.
Well, I know you don't know what it costs.
No,
so,
what I'm saying,
yeah.
the dog park and the parking lot and the fitness trail, right? And fitness/walking trail, probably very inexpensive, right? Where the expense is going to start to come up is on the field.
Fields.
Right?
What kind of fields? How
And,
many?
You
Yeah.
know, and I showed you a field called Cutting Field in Sudbury because I'm very well familiar with that field. That field was built in 2005. It's still there, has about 20-year life, 25-year life. Maintenance is $4,000 a year, and it costs about $750,000 today's dollars on field turf. Talking to Jack, his team has done those kind of analysis on fields and stuff, and we can get, I think, some good ballpark numbers. Then the question becomes tennis courts, paddleball courts, right, and the senior center with an indoor swimming pool. So we may break it into different phases depending upon the dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we come talk to you, we'll break it into the two phases and see, you know, hopefully provide you also with some guidance on where that money could come from or what it costs the taxpayer.
That would be important.
Yeah, that'd be very important.
So that's one of the things that we'll work on as well.
Would this conceptual plan give us any ideas about ballpark
estimated costs?
Yeah, or no?
Or ranges of costs?
Yeah, it would, but it won't be the principal focus. So I mean,
Well, we don't know. So,
right,
like,
the first approximation would be looking at the fields basically, the parking lots based on square footage, and there are reasonably good resources where you get a fairly ballpark, fairly accurate ballpark estimate. But so, you know, that's where a professional engineering would be able to
right.
down the cost. So we'll give you a
Back of the envelope would be appreciated.
It's like a house.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to build a field, so many square foot, that particular field costs X amount of square foot.
You meant?
Yeah, I mean, you probably could get within 80%.
That's good. That's a lot closer.
In the gut feel, because, you know, the soil conditions and everything else is you know, Chairman Archibald talked about. I mean, that's stuff that they may or may not have the capability. I don't know. There are going to be things that are going to pop up, and so that's the way I look at it.
I think the most important thing, I think it's a good first step. Yeah. And
it's a step, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Did somebody else want to talk? Kathy, were you here to talk about this, or?
Yes.
You have to use the microphone.
No, Kathy, I'm sorry.
And just because people on TV can't see who you are, if you could just say who you are.
Kathy Perry from Middle Street. My concern is parking. As we know, we have a parking problem up at Tight State now, and I'm hoping this will address some of that, because I would not like to see, even in the building fields, that more people will then become parking.
Yeah, I think they have a parking area that's off of Chase Street, so they would actually alleviate the parking.
I haven't seen the plan, that's
Yeah.
why I came to get information.
Right.
Yeah. I haven't seen what their concepts are.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I came to see. It does seem like they are addressing parking, but I just.
Right.
Yeah, if you guys don't address parking, then let's not even bother starting.
Yeah,
I mean,
they park
that's a
in this-
big,
I was gonna say, with all the parking on the grass and all of that, it's
Just
just.
in terms of, because it's, I don't even know whether you've even thought about this, but there is always the issue that's not the greatest entry, just our existing entry into the parking lot. Maybe, do we want to think about, I'm just throwing this out, do we want a second entry on
Chase Street.
On Chase Street, yeah, rather than
Bringing all those people
bringing
through there and then bringing them over.
additional vehicles, making that difficult turn on the top of the.
I think
top
that's
of
what
the
they
hill
had.
on
That's
113.
what.
You had that.
That's what's
additional
there.
parking.
That's
Yeah.
there?
That's
Okay.
there, yeah.
Okay.
I looked at this, we had 75, okay, sorry, Kathy. Are you done?
Is there anybody else?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just have one question of them.
No, but wait, let's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to make a comment? Okay.
Okay.
Of the 75 acres, potentially, how much are you guys, with these plans, I couldn't really tell how much would be used.
Yeah.
That's a great question. We're not sure.
Okay. That's fair. I'm not.
No, it's a great question.
Because I saw some outlines,
I
and
mean,
I didn't know if that, you have circles and.
We started playing with Google, you know how you can do.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I started playing with all that stuff, or we started playing with it, and it just gets to the point. That's why when we started talking to Jack, and the idea of Wentworth doing something much more detailed we could bring to you with cost, and then we can give you a better idea.
Okay, so.
And I think it's very important for everybody to see the plans that you gave to us are very, very preliminary and could change. You need just conceptual stuff, because I just don't want all of a sudden people start looking at things and commenting and not liking something because of something that's in here. It's just a place to start, and it could totally look different by the time we finish.
That's correct.
Okay. So if you want to make a motion, Glenn.
So I make a motion that they would go forward with this program, give us our permission or whatever. And
So
that we would-
authorize the funding from.
From what?
Technical and.
Selectmen's technical and, okay, second.
Discussion?
Is there any well field issues there? Need water? Can you want that in?
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
Sure.
Hold on for 1 second. I know, that's what I was just gonna help you out with that. I made the motion and.
Joe seconded.
And Joe seconded. Now we're in discussion. I just want, sorry, I didn't mean to be rude, but we're not having a problem, we wanna make sure.
Could you say your name for the audience?
Yeah, Ryan Goodwin, Chair for the Mill Pond Committee. A question, have you guys approached the school building committee for inclusion of this idea, or in that possible consideration?
No.
Because that seems like one of the most logical to us is plans of action, is if these fields could be incorporated with the new school build that's oncoming.
In what way?
That
money ways and all that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of.
Absolutely impossible. I'm on that building.
Yeah, no, I question, yeah, I don't, I wonder, because I mean, the athletic fields will be part of the build, right?
Correct, but that's a 3-town thing. This says, no, yeah, it has to be on a site. I'll bring it up to them at our next meeting, but I don't, no. I just know that it won't be able to be done that way. Okay. And I personally would rather it not be that way, because it's gonna cloud the waters for a new high school or a middle school in the fields down there, then all of a sudden we have external extra fields in West Newbury, that, and then it becomes, I would prefer us to stand alone on it and not have that. Can I ask you a question? Did I have what's the, so there is some type of bylaw or whatever you want to call it, that Mill Pond, you can't have any new because obviously we have permanent structures on Mill Pond, so this statement about not having permanent structures on Mill Pond, because we have them on Mill Pond. So is it new structures?
Yeah, so in 2001, when the initial field was constructed at Life State, it was brought to the town meeting vote to approve the funding by 2/3 majority, failed funding. Rather, failed the vote. A agreement was made between the Parks and Rec Department, along with the Essex County Trails Association, along with Mill Pond and Life State Road Committee, that the fields would be constructed. We actually contributed money to that construction of the field. In place was put a conservation restriction, I think it was October 2001, where no other existing structures other than what was covered on there. That includes fences, posts, sheds, anything of that matter, as the town wanted to keep it a natural nature reserve.
So the conservation restriction, at that time, I thought, it's like, the line is like in the middle of the street, and it goes, you know what I mean? It goes from the DPW garage. So when that restriction was in place, it had to do with all of Mill Pond, or just the field portion of it and the riding and driving? Is that I could
speak, I'm not looking at the map right now, but I could speak up without, yeah, because I think it encompasses.
all of Mill Pond?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, but I thought it was bigger than just one
I mean, that whole area up there. I knew about the conservation restriction on that area, but maybe I just assumed that it was that area because it was new and never took under the.
Yeah, that wasn't erroneous information without looking at the actual property license.
Okay,
It
that's
does
fine.
not, does not include
that.
done.
Okay.
And what about the elementary school idea? Because I know that was part of when it went to the town. And you said it might be good for building an elementary school on town property. Is that no longer something you're considering?
No. No.
That was mentioned. I'm
Yeah.
not speaking against this project. I just want to make clear.
Well, that was mentioned that we just spent and that was debated at town meeting when we spent over $10 million.
Do we build a new school or do we refurb?
Yeah, do we build a new school or we
That's not down the road right now.
No, we just spent.
I would say no, because, yeah, the idea
we went to town
was.
meeting and asked them, we had three options. We had build a new school, renovate, or do nothing. And the town picked to renovate. And we just spent $10 million to pay school.
I guess what I'm asking is, when we bought that Dunn property,
Yep.
it was for municipal purposes.
Correct.
That one is, and that's just.
We can do anything we want with it. The selectmen have the authority, there's no restrictions on it, there's nothing, it's for municipal purposes. And that has to be noted, Jen, that was one of the reasons why we bought it. About a potential for a new elementary school down the line. That wasn't the reason why we bought it.
Such as we could have an elementary school.
Correct. Yep.
My comment on that would be is that whatever you do is a great idea, is that you reserve the control of it to the Board of Selectmen, so that maybe 30 years from now, if you want to put a.
Oh, yeah.
Then the board would
Sure.
be able to do it.
Yep.
I would agree.
So you wouldn't put on, say.
Restrictions.
Oh, no. Nope.
Correct.
How does that work with the park and rec? Don't they have their own purview?
No.
If it's dedicated to the Park and Rec Department, that's why I suggested that would be dedicated to the Park.
So
You have
give you
land that,
give you an example. Pipe Stave is under the control of the Board of Selectmen, but we give it to Park and Rec to have them manage it.
With a management
Because-
agreement.
Excuse me? A portion of it. But the Cammett Field and stuff behind here, that was given to the Park and Rec. So they get to do what they want, not what they want, but they have control of it and they manage that. But Pipe Stave is still under the direction of the Board of Selectmen in the town. You know what, Jen? Who knows?
We're just investigating.
yeah. And you can even say the who knows, but at this point, it's an idea that looks like it has a lot of merit, but we're just in the infancy
So next time, could we have because I presume next time will be months down the road, a more in-depth
Well, the way we look,
financing discussion?
yeah, I think the way we're gonna look at it, Joe, is step one is we'll come back early on, once we've got Wentworth on board and they do their. So we're probably gonna meet with you 3 times before the final report. In that middle one.
The final Wentworth report?
Yeah, final Wentworth, but before the final Wentworth report, we're gonna try to meet with the Board of Selectmen 2 more times, and in that second one, hopefully we'll have some numbers that you can take a look
All
at.
right. Good.
Probably around July or so.
Excellent.
Okay, so we didn't file.
Vote. Aye.
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 Thanks, guys.
So you got your
No,
money.
thank you. I want to thank Audrey, though. Thank you, Audrey, for coming.
Thank you, Audrey.
I don't know if you're interested, Bill, but they asked for a town manager search committee update, which I'm just about to give, if you want.
At Dog Park, I mean, that's
Can we
one thing
take that out
we
of
deal
order?
with on an ongoing
Can we
basis.
take that
with
out of
dogs
order?
running around, you know, being able to use Mill Pond and the horses and dogs, so that would be a great idea.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Audrey. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Tom.
Can you check on that conservation restriction, that restriction on Mill Pond?
So what's the question on it?
Just how big it is.
Oh.
What it encompasses, I guess.
I always thought it was everything to the right of the driveway.
They carve out the municipal area.
Yep, I knew that.
Which is essentially the
Gary's.
DPW building.
Yep.
And then
It goes down that road.
Going down the road, and that's all municipal use, that's
Yep.
not subject to anything,
Mhm.
we do whatever we want there. The rest of it, including the town forest, is under this conservation restriction, but there are reserve rights to like having playing fields, keep the buildings up that are there, keep the riding stables that are there.
But you just can't add any new structures.
The question that is.
Because I saw you
Yes,
grinning
yes,
when
yes,
you
and there's no new structures, although there's a question of whether a fence is a structure.
Yeah, define a structure.
The fence is
Define a
not in the
structure.
building code, it's not a structure.
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to take the next item out of order. Since Mr. Backrack is here, we'd like a update on what's happening with our town manager search.
So you asked for an update. You guys asked for an update last time. So I just want to start to say, I think we have, and I'm not saying this because Bill's here. I was going to say it. I didn't know you were going to be here, but I think we have a very good, diverse search committee, and the time we took to make that selection is well worth it. And I sincerely appreciate what they're doing. So I think that will pay dividends. The resumes are actually due today. Was the due date that we had given, and there's been a surge in the last week. They started slow and finished strong. I'm just ballparking, so these aren't exact numbers, but there's probably in total around 50. I would say of scorable, vettable, so not an assistant manager from Market Basket. So scorable, vettable, based on and they're still coming in right now.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, but they don't have municipal experience. Right, so there's probably, I'm just guessing, because literally they're, like my phone was going berserk. It's probably in the low 30s as far as, which is, I think that's outstanding, because if you think about it in the context that in Massachusetts, there's 235 town managers and town administrators. So having 30 applicants, I think, is outstanding. Now, yeah, some of them are from New Hampshire, or there's one from Rhode Island. Yeah, but that's a good number for, and they run the range. And there's some very good ones. So I don't think we'll have a problem.
So what's your timetable?
We won't have I get there. I don't think we'll have a problem, and whatever the committee determines, finding 6 or 8 candidates to interview, and certainly identifying 3 or 4 to bring in here. Agreed?
What did we say, how many you're supposed to bring? Was there ever a
Minimum,
minimum?
it says a minimum of 3. So it could be 4, we could bring in 10.
No, don't bring in
Yeah,
10.
I don't want you to bring any more.
It'll-
That's why I was asking.
it'll
I would
prob-
think 3 would be good for
I
us.
think it might be 3. I mean, it could be 4, who knows? We'll see
It is
what
what
they...
it is at the end of the day. But
Right.
Just vet them, so we don't have 10.
So the screening interviews should be completed. Our target is second week of December. So we should plan on, I think we should have another update at our December 11th Selectmen's meeting. And I think we can count on, based on what I've seen in the last week, I think we can count on having tentative interviews, or tentative time to have interviews here, probably in very early January. Perhaps maybe January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, that first week somewhere, I don't know. But wherever.
Our interviews or your interviews?
Yours, ours.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll be done, the search committee should be done interviewing
first of the year?
by the second week of December.
Oh.
We'll be
I
done.
thought you were going to start.
No,
Oh, great. Excellent.
no, we're gonna start in 2 weeks.
Good. How's it look comparable to like the last one? Microphone, please.
Oh, no, I think.
You were on the last committee.
No, I was on the, yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's going along very smoothly, and I think the process is pretty well defined. I mean, we're
Yep.
pretty well and ready, all set up
Just
for
gotta do all the
interview
work.
questions and everything else, so we're ready to roll. All we have to do is choose or look at the resumes and decide on whom we want to interview. That's where we're at. Yeah, team's done a great job.
Yeah, the whole team, yep.
Yeah.
Terrific. Excellent.
Full
That's
participation by
exciting.
everybody,
Yeah.
and everybody provides really good input.
And I think we've got all the dates set up for the next meeting, so I think we're ready to roll.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good working.
Yeah, we've got our timeline laid out as far as when we want to do the interviews, we just gotta slot the
Yeah.
people.
I think the process has worked well.
No, he's done great.
Even with dealing with the state, it all worked out, and we got nervous there for a bit, but it's all working.
Yep.
No, the team's really doing well. Thank you. Have a
Thanks
great
a lot.
night, guys.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks. We wanted to, our next item was to go a little bit more over the objectives of the department heads for FY18. We did that a little at the last meeting. We wanted to finish it up tonight. Glenn, you had said there was a couple of things you wanted to note last time, or no?
No, I don't want to get into my long diatribes.
Excuse me?
I don't want to get into my long diatribes. I'm fine.
Okay. Joe?
Well, I mean, I can repeat what I said last time, but I don't have anything to add to what I said. So, in terms of next step, do you have anything too?
Vamp for a moment. I'm trying to find it.
Well, okay, so after you say what you're gonna say, then, what's our next steps? We should give whatever feedback we have back to the department heads and ask them to make any adjustments.
That I would agree with.
Okay.
So from that context, we should probably kind of recap what is it that we want to say tonight. I mean, I'll start if you want.
Go ahead.
And I'm just repeating from last week. So last week I started with Mary, so I'll do that again. I mean, we talked about how we can increase communications beyond the website. So pretty simple. And I think we've been talking about that. The inspection department, and this is a very broad statement, but how can we enhance developer oversight? And when I say developer, I'm talking about the big developments, police, develop strategies to reduce police dispatch overtime and in turn employee turnover, and procurement whenever the covenant, I don't know when the covenant for River Meadow Drive is up. That's pretty soon though, right? Like in the next year or so, I thought?
It's more than a 2-minute discussion.
Okay, never mind. That's it. That's for me.
Okay. I wanted to reiterate something I've been sort of gnawing at me for a while, and you put it down again, Mike. I want us to do something about the phone system and maybe get a consolidated all town departments using the same carrier, and maybe we can.
Oh, you're talking about cell phones?
Cell phones and the
Office
town
phones.
phones, just global. Maybe
That might be a good first project.
but I
for the
think
town,
maybe that's
town
exactly,
manager.
the town manager may put some insight into that.
It's not broken, so why don't we, but we could make it better, I guess, so that could be a project for that new town manager.
Just as an aside from that, and just a starting point suggestion, so that we're not saying to people you have to change your cell phone. That's not good.
No.
But what we could do is any new cell phones that are issued by whoever's doing this, whatever the carrier is, and then if somebody wants to come into, if there's such a thing as a town plan, if somebody wants to not have theirs, that if they wanted to join that they could. But then everybody else just continues to operate as they do today. So it's just as change occurs. And eventually it would include everybody then.
No matter what it is, the person can keep their number.
Yeah, of
Not
course.
like the olden days. where
Yeah,
you
I don't want to take it.
You know what I mean? It's not when you switch carriers.
No,
you lose your number.
but ultimately,
If you can do this,
if we
Archie,
can,
if you can do this in the lifetime
if
of a
we can
selectman,
get down from 37 bills to 17 bills,
I agree.
It might be easier.
We've been trying to do this for years, just with no avail.
One of the goals that were put down by the Council on Aging, which I think is good, maybe expanding the senior work-off program. I don't know.
I'm all for that.
Yeah,
I think it's
it's a win-win for people to knock a few bucks off their tax.
I'm sorry to say,
and to help.
Can I give you some comments on that?
Yes.
Does the library have that program?
It's available to them. So my comments on, I've been talking with Teresa about this for years. So it's nothing to do, there's more volunteers than there are positions.
Correct.
That's the problem. So the problem is here, and I'll just use this building as an example, but it could be the library or anywhere, to get jobs for them to do. So I think Mary's been doing it, and they time out as far as number of hours, so you probably have to cycle through a couple of people in the course of a year.
Yeah, basically, I told them what I was looking for, and I was given one name. I don't know if there was more names.
According to what she said, yeah.
Yeah, so I
According
don't
to
know.
what we're getting is that there's more volunteers than there are slots. Yeah.
Just for, I think it's important as when you said you asked Council on Aging.
Yes, I
And they
put in
gave-
an application, yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people understood that. She
Okay.
said and they only gave me one name. So you put an application with the Council on Aging and said, hey, I have these needs, and they only gave you one person.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
That's correct. So what I wish I could, in fact, I want to speak with them to see if there's others, because
Well, I think Teresa's coming back Monday, right? So you could
I
talk to her.
didn't look at that, but yeah, I think she is coming back, so would like to look at that, yes.
So that's something that it's a pretty practical solution that helps out a lot of people. So
Is there an application?
Yes.
Okay, that would be nice to know if that's what the application, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, I never heard about the application. That's the first time I've ever heard about that application.
do you get it from the assessor's office or?
The Council on Aging.
I got it from Council on Aging.
Could you talk, okay, follow up. Could you talk to Teresa and ask her to recirculate that?
Yeah. And I'm sure that, and to have her I'm sure it's in there, but I can't look right now, to put it in the monthly newsletter that goes out to.
You're asking for more volunteers?
Why not? Yeah.
Well,
A bigger pool, and let's try to, but we need to prompt our
but
stuff on this.
we need to have a
do
place.
both ends.
I would be careful, because I would do a little work on that. Do we already have more people than we do jobs? So
So how can we generate more jobs? Better outreach to our departments and telling them of what's available. I think that would be the first start. We have to contact the departments and tell them, right?
And the thing is, with the application, you'll be able to say, okay, this is the task I want done, set it up, and you have how many hours you think it's gonna take, stuff like that. Some of it's just mechanical stuff that you wanna get done, like JPLs do.
Mm-hmm. And it's worked out great. I mean,
Yeah.
it has been fabulous.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but what are we gonna do?
So we do need more details on the program even. I was never even told how many hours she could work before, I had to stop. Is that,
So maybe it's a good idea. Why don't we have Teresa come in here and talk to us about the program and ask her questions directly, so we don't have Mary doing it, another task, and then that will generate more buzz too in the paper and on our agenda, and then we can talk and send something out after we get the whole thing to all the departments.
Yeah, and so,
With the
so we know if
application, yeah.
there's actually 70 people waiting to find something, or there's only 2.
Let's have her come in
Yeah.
and talk about it.
Sure.
Yeah, good.
No harm.
next meeting?
Well,
Yep.
Whenever she can.
Next couple,
Yeah, it's not urgent to do immediately.
Okay.
Okay,
Appointments.
thank you.
I have a
I had a, at some point, I would, the Board of Health, one of their objectives was to keep the recycling area up to date and to manage recycling program. I'd like to know how we're doing. Can we do better? Does the town, what's our percentage recycling versus other communities? Do we need to publicize it more, or are we doing well? I don't know the answer
How
to-
can we increase recycling? Because
Or is it is increasing recycling, ignoring the environmental aspect of it, is it saving the town money?
of course, because
Well, not necessarily.
Hold
Yeah,
on,
see,
hold
that's
on.
the thing.
Yeah, I was told, I always assumed it did. I'm being told that it doesn't. It costs our town more money to recycle than it does to take away.
Well,
trash.
then
I don't
then
know-
there's-
I
then
don't-
there's been a
I don't know if
change.
that should go out to the, I
There's-
don't know if that's true or not. That's a rumor. That's a urban myth, but I don't know.
Let's get some answers.
Well, let's
to it.
get some answers on that.
So if you could, okay, so then an action item would, if we could ask Mary, that we noticed one of their objectives was about recycling, the selectmen would like to help, would like to have some more information about recycling and ask them that very simple question. What does it cost recycling, and does recycling, I want to know, does recycling...
Is it helping us? Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it did, and then I was told that it didn't, and so I want to get that, so you're right, that could be a rumor, so I want to get it done properly.
Right, because if recycling costs less, obviously we'd want to do more, how can we do more recycling? Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's, those were the things I wanted to target.
So you just want them to put something in writing? Or did you want them to come into a meeting and
Board of
talk
Health?
about it? You're just
I
looking
think
for
they
some
could,
sort
they
of
could
a-
answer the question.
Just answer the question.
Just
How
answer.
we can help them
How can we help them?
to reach their goals, and that other question about how much does it really cost about recycling?
Okay.
And does it cost more to recycle than it does the regular tonnage? Appointments?
Okay, yes.
I have a question on this.
Yes.
So open space, who resigned?
Dawn?
Oh, Dawn?
Yeah.
Ah,
Make a motion to appoint Wendy Reed, Open Space Committee alternate.
June
Term,
June 30th, 2018.
Yep.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to appoint Marlene Switzer as a permanent member to the Open Space Committee through June 30th, 2020.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, can I just interrupt for one moment?
Yes.
Sure.
Wendy Reed, she has not updated her conflict of interest.
And she submitted as the Board of Library Trustee member?
When?
She was elected this year.
I have not received an updated conflict of interest. I spoke with her last week. She was going to maybe do it over the weekend. Did you get anything today?
So just, all appointments are contingent upon if they do the conflict of interest.
Okay, and
Right.
that's all I wanted to ask was it contingent based upon that?
Reappointment, not an initial appointment, reappointment is.
Okay.
Because if you appoint,
Yeah,
if you appoint
somebody,
Archie today,
then
he doesn't have it, so he
Yeah.
has a
Then he
certain
has
period
to
of
do
time
it.
to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Okay.
resign.
Now-
Yeah, I think it's like 20 days.
If he doesn't do it, then we're not going to reappoint them.
I resign.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Springtown meeting?
Okay. I'll try to go through these relatively quickly, but, so this is a review of articles that took place during the Springtown meeting and what's the financial ramifications of them. Did we do them? The pension liability stabilization fund was an additional $50K was added to that. Some interest has been earned. The fund balance in that at the moment is $100,294. Septic loan was done. The Dunn property debt was paid. The school building fund, and this does not, this is through the Springtown meeting, so it doesn't include our amount added in October, but as of, without that amount, it's $437,529.
All we're doing is checking, make sure what we voted for is
It
what
happened,
happened. So
yes.
that happened.
Exactly. So the, and some interest was earned, so it's good to know that it's working. We've got $20K in the bicentennial fund. The 10,000 was added. Park and Rec revolving fund was created. Cable advisory fund has been recorded in the ledger. The police vehicle revolving fund, the town accountant said she's working on this revolving fund. No funds have been used as of the moment.
Well,
So
no
that-
funds have been put in there, I mean.
Right, so that's,
They can't be used until we buy a new car.
no, this is money that is, nothing's been used, but it must, some funds must have been generated.
Yeah, so, yeah, it can't be used because the
Right.
money was supposed to be for a new car. So we
Right.
haven't bought one yet after we have generated the
So
fund.
that one's a work in progress.
Okay.
Article 18, there was to add money to the municipal buildings insurance fund. That was done. We now have $50,000 in there to deal with co-insurances and deductibles maybe. CPC funds were done. The OPEB study was done. It was completed. The total cost was $4,095. So there's in that account, there is an unused balance of $500. The fire, for the fire department, the new breathing apparatus, the balance remaining in that account is $34,950. I haven't.
So we don't know if it's completed.
We don't know if it's completed.
That'd be a good question to ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
The cruiser, the balance remaining in the cruiser account was is approximately $2,700. Again, I don't know if anything is.
Okay, so but how do we find these things out? Because
Well,
that's
we
the
just
one-
have to ask that. I asked Gary about one of them today, actually. So
Okay, so can I ask a question to go forward? Okay, the OPEB, so, okay, so that's finished, the bill was paid, and we have $500 left.
Right.
What are we doing with that money?
Well,
It zeros back to free cash then, or do we have to, what do we do?
You can vote to put it back to free cash.
But does that have to happen at a town meeting?
We've done it that way in the past, and they've also just.
Can you figure out what legally, or do we have to ask the accountant on that one?
I think our preference would be if we could vote that, right?
Yeah, we want to vote that back in. Okay.
Just to do, so it doesn't get ignored.
So we close
Yeah.
it out, right?
Yeah.
That's, okay, sorry.
Okay.
Because the whole thing on this was to see what we can do.
Well, I know, but I just want, you should know where
No, I
we
agree.
are on some of these.
Yep.
Okay, so the snow and ice, and you were right about this, Glenn, it doesn't always get used. So approximately $1,200 was left over in the snow and ice account, and that account was closed at the end of the fiscal year. So that money has been put in free cash. The tractor, I spoke with the DPW director today. The balance in the account is $5,500. They have the tractor, but he said there was an additional piece of equipment that costing about $2,500 that he may be getting for that. So that money, we don't.
Was that part of the article?
Well, we'd have to go back and look. I don't know.
Yeah, we can't buy equipment
For
a
the
tractor if it wasn't part of the article, correct? Or is that?
I think that the article might have been tractor
And accessories, yeah.
Yeah, but if it was tractor and accessories, then it was. I left my articles in the other room. I was gonna bring them. I should have.
Yeah, we should check the motion.
Yeah, okay. The playground rehab, there's a significant amount of money
Yeah, I
left.
thought they did the rehab.
Okay, well, there's
They
a
did.
significant amount left in that of 22,000.
We should have asked these guys when they were here tonight. Okay.
The cruiser, it says, and these are follow-ups that Lori made. Additional invoices have been processed regarding the cruiser. Current balance after this week's expenditure is $400. So I don't know what else got bought, but something did. As far as the breathing apparatus goes, the purchase is substantially complete. I don't know what that means, but they were able to purchase the equipment at considerable cost savings. So there's a balance now of $35,000. Perhaps we're going to get most of that back.
Good.
So that's good.
Nice job,
Okay.
fire department.
So I think we've learned by doing this, and then the FinCom asked us tonight to be able to have something part of their article process, so then we have updated, so we don't have to do what you just did.
Well, yeah.
Part of the application process.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So we
But
can
I
have-
still think you have to look, you have to trust but verify.
Yeah.
You have to assume
I
they're going
agree.
to do it, and then we still have to come back and do this, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, where are we at? Our
Rules of signs on town.
our continuing resolution related to signs.
So we
Why
had
is this on here?
we had a letter from a prior applicant, and they were questioning the need to have written permission from
Yeah.
a homeowner.
Yep.
And is that a realistic expectation? So, I don't know. I mean, is that a realistic expectation when people put up political signs that are on the right of way?
Political signs have nothing to do, with
It's a sign.
signs.
Oh, really?
The thing is, we can't give permission to put up political signs. We're giving somebody permission to put a sign up.
Well, if they put a sign on town-owned land,
Okay, so you want to be able to give permission to somebody to put
no, I don't. want
on
No.
town-owned land in front of somebody's home?
No.
Without the verification of that homeowner?
Well, I think.
Well, no, the reason we were doing this was because the DPW was gonna take down signs in the right-of-way that weren't on the accepted list, and so that's why.
Well, that and the fact that she had come
But-
back.
but-
she had come back with additional things and said, I want to put them here, here,
Right,
here. in
now
front of
she
people's
wants to
house.
put additional.
And I think I'm the one who said, hey, if you're gonna put something, we're giving authority to somebody to put a sign in front of somebody's house. Just an email from her and say, yes, Jack Smith said yes, his number, in case it comes into question. I want something.
So we're asking the homeowner to send us an email that.
No, the person,
Either one.
I don't really care, Joe, but I really don't. And the sign thing, I don't want to see the sign thing on an agenda ever again, because we have to work this out.
You might.
Right? So I don't understand it. So it's very simple. So if she does something, she goes, yes, we need some verification that they got permission.
Why?
Because
it's
otherwise,
in front of somebody's house.
Because
Like
otherwise,
I just said to you.
because
So you want me
otherwise
to
the
be able, without your
DPW
permission,
can
or
take it
somebody
down.
potentially not being talking to you, you want me to be able to approve a sign to be put in the right of way in front of your home without talking to you.
No, they have to talk to me.
But what verification? So we have to take the word from the people that they've talked to you. So that's what I just said. So an email saying, I talked to Joe Anderson, he said it was okay. Not just, I want permission to put it in front of 136, 492, and 3.
No, I think it's the other way around, Glenn. We just want to know that the homeowner approved allowing it to be on their property.
That's what I just said.
But for our purposes, no one's gonna allow, if someone put a sign in front of my house and it wasn't something I knew about, I'd take it down.
Right. And I think what we said last time, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the homeowner had to email us that they are giving permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I said that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
And that's what I just said. We need some type of verification.
But you say it's not going to happen.
The homeowner.
No, it could happen. It's just a kind of a cumbersome process. It's kind of a pain in the neck. That's why we're here talking about it again tonight.
I know.
So
what do we do?
So I said the applicant. So there has to be an application or something come forward to ask permission to put signs out, correct? So part of that application, they have to say, Bob Smith, who lives at 132, I want to put signs at 132 Main Street. Bob Smith said it was okay. So it gives, you know what I mean?
Yes.
By that, so the homeowner doesn't have to email us. At least we have
The applicant
somebody.
does.
So when
Okay.
they call us and say, what the hell is the sign doing in the front of my home? They said, Mary Smith put an
Said it was
application
okay.
in, and she has your name with your phone number or whatever, said it was okay. We're sorry. She will contact her and we'll take it down. But just something.
So, okay, fine. So Mary's been dealing with these applicants. Okay, so do you see any issues that you've heard in conversation with applicants? Or would that make sense? If the applicant told us the addresses.
And who they spoke with at
No.
the property?
No.
No, just one
They have
person.
permission to put a sign up on Cherry Hill Street from David Archibald.
Yeah,
Like in
that's
other
what you
words,
said.
the other person, the person running the
Yeah.
road race gets 10 people to say it's okay, and they
See.
have to do it,
So
not
they
the
call
10,
me
not
and
the
they
10
say-
Not the
people,
applicant.
not the 10
Not the
people.
homeowner. Yeah.
Not the
yeah.
whole people, but just if I want to put 3 signs up and I want to put them in, 2 signs up, I want to put them in front of my house. I bring it to you and say, could you please ask the selectmen to approve this?
Yeah.
I want 1 sign.
I think
Dave
that
Archibald
works.
said it was okay, Joe. So at least there's a name there.
Right.
Not, I want one on 132 on
So
the island.
that makes
here.
sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it's worth giving it a try. You
Okay.
know, I mean, if we run
So
into
how-
a problem, I
So,
can't
but
see
how-
where.
But I don't want to run into a problem. That's the problem.
Well,
I don't want to hear again.
we already
I don't
did.
want somebody to.
We
So
did run into
nobody's like,
We
just did run into
this
a
This
problem.
is the person who,
I
to
understand,
give her
so
credit, she's
So
trying
we're working
to,
through it, is what
abo-
we're doing. And we got to go through the
But why
the
would
baby
so hold
steps
on.
to get.
There might be another problem, but why would there be a problem on this one issue? Let's not have, Joe, if we don't want to have it, just like, let's say, forget about it. Let's not have it. But it seems like I want to work out, say, okay, there are problems we're working through. So we have an issue about this.
Yeah.
So we've just made a decision. I don't want to bend again on this, okay? Because the only other bending on this again would be then we don't We
don't do anything.
We don't do anything, or we don't need permission from anybody to put in front of somebody's home.
So we're changing, so
Okay.
let me get it straight. So we're changing from the homeowner has to give us
Yeah.
the permission. It's the applicant can give us a list of where they are, and they can
Who they
amend.
got permission from.
And they, where, so Joe
List
Anderson
of-
at 214 Bachelor Street gave
Said it was
permission.
okay.
Right.
You know.
Of
yeah.
where? And who gave him permission?
Yeah. You need something, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because they would have to ask anyway. They're going to ask Mary Smith, part of the lacrosse
Absolutely.
thing.
Right, or
said it
else
was
Gary's,
okay.
okay, so we'll
That's
change the policy then.
So we'll add that as a requirement on any
We have to vote that.
private property. In front of
in
someone's
front of-
private property.
We have to vote that.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
So I move to amend the sign policy that and to rescind the previous motion that has to have written permission from the owner that the applicant state or certify that they
Or
got.
the organization representative, or whatever you want to call it.
Whoever, applicant or organization, certify that they've gotten permission from the homeowner, including the address of the property.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion.
I have had a couple of people say that it looks neater over there.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, who seconded that? I was writing.
Glenn did.
Joe seconded. Somebody.
I said it, you seconded
He
it.
said it.
He seconded. I didn't do it.
Oh, he's okay.
Make a motion
Thank
to
you.
accept the minutes from September 25th, October 2nd, October 16th, and October 30th.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to accept the invoice warrants.
Second. There's
What
no
are we doing now? My brain stopped.
invoice forms.
I'm doing minutes, invoice.
We
okay.
just did the minutes.
Discussion. I had no questions about the invoice.
No.
I
All
have,
in favor?
aye.
Aye.
I move to approve the payroll warrant.
Second.
And we gotta get all those signatures done?
Yep.
Any
Yes.
signatures on there? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Follow-ups. We're gonna put that as an actual agenda item, we said later.
I know,
Yeah,
and
right.
I definitely missed that.
Okay, so
Change that.
item number one, we have to sign the overlay thing.
Not the tax.
Sign it. You go on the DLS and
Yeah.
approve it.
Yeah.
I have it here for you to
No, but
sign,
there's something to sign.
and then we can also try to do it electronic. Do you know how to do it electronically, Joe?
I've done it that way for years.
Good. Absolutely, that's good. So if,
She's proud of you.
I am,
You sound like your mom.
I've never had
Archie,
to,
and
I've
if
never had to
Glenn-
sign anything before.
So, I was talking to Meredith, and she recommended that maybe we had you sign it in case those that forgot how to do it, we could scan it and send it over. I don't know.
Okay, whatever.
Do you remember your
Whatever,
password?
it is what it is.
Oh, yeah, I got it written down.
Yeah, of course you do.
We can definitely help you through it. Glenn, if you have any time to come in, we can.
No, absolutely.
I need-
I'm signing that thing right over there.
You
can
are.
do whatever you wanna do with it.
All right, Archie, if you want to come in. We can
I'll
get
need-
you
I'll
through
need
it.
hand-holding,
Just let me
okay.
know when you want to come in, and I'll get it ready, okay?
Okay,
So
the next
that's-
one, follow-up, we need to sign the cultural council thing.
Yep, I got that here.
Okay, for the storm,
She's gonna get back to us.
um,
She's gonna do
Leanne is gonna get back to us on, from what other, after sending it to the departments. FinCom budget planning,
We're gonna get back to them after we have our discussion.
We're gonna talk at the next meeting,
Right, so that's an agenda item for next meeting.
yes.
Budget thing.
Yeah, and the calendar. If
You work on the calendar.
I'll do a draft of a calendar, we can look at it.
Okay.
The other thing I had on Finance Committee is they have an open position.
Yep.
So, do we have a wording on that to post it? We did use that in the past, right? We did post for the finance committee.
Post, you mean news and announcement post?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
get
that's
the
fine.
word
Yeah, but
out.
we
That's
don't
fine.
have a job description or
No,
something.
just, there's an
No.
opening in the
Say
finance committee.
Just,
Like,
okay.
what you need to know, and you don't have to do it when you do the posting, is to find out what position it is, because it's a certain, and Joe's probably gonna tell us in 2 seconds, how long it is.
The
appointment.
term.
Oh, the term.
Yeah, the term.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't need that to post it though.
You don't
No, I
need it to,
didn't say that. I
well,
said
but it would
down
be
the
nice to
line,
have,
Oh,
yeah.
when we
Somebody,
appoint.
they're gonna say, yeah, it's
Right.
2 years and 1 year, I don't know.
So I'm gonna post that position.
That's a good point,
Yes.
okay. Pipes Day, we don't need to do anything about that, departmental, what do we wanna do about that? Anything about?
Oh, can I go back to the
follow-
pipe state
You want me to
thing?
send you a copy of that?
Oh,
Mary?
sure.
The pipe
Okay,
state thing,
wonderful,
The
yes.
the posting that I did.
Okay.
the pipe state thing, we didn't tell them, it's technical, so it has to come through you.
It's
We
been-
didn't-
I'll,
you
so
said
I'll
that-
tell Bill
Selectmen's professional and technical
Yeah,
account.
you said that earlier with the other thing, but we didn't say it on those, and I was
So
gonna say
that's where
it.
it's coming from.
So they just know to get the bill to you, or they know how that's gonna be classified when they're doing it in the finance department,
Got it.
the bill that is.
Well, that's gotta come through and you guys sign it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
But I just wanna make sure they know what to do, and they don't put it in their own thing, I don't know.
Where were
The
we?
objectives is fine. No, the objectives we're gonna do about the Board of Health. She's gonna talk to the Board of Health about recycling.
Right, and we wanna follow up with having Teresa come in and talk about,
Thank you.
Teresa come in and talk about the senior work-off.
Yep, and the Board of Health, I had those two things.
Yep.
And then the
appointments happen, the Springtown meeting follow-up.
the signs with the new regulation, I'll let her know if the
Okay,
change to that.
placing things on future agendas?
Okay, so, next meeting, we want to invite the, school committee, members and the superintendent to,
The people from the building committee to give us
Yeah. An update.
presentation on the process.
And that'll take about 45 or 50 minutes between the presentation and questions.
Let's do that first thing.
yeah. And we want to, start talking about any potential organizational changes related to the new town manager.
Good.
So,
Are you taking things, or are you gonna,
go ahead.
are you taking suggestions, or?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I wouldn't mind at some point asking the chief, maybe this isn't a good sample size, the chief of police, to come in and give us a little, how the, school resource office is working?
Yeah, he did that with the school committee. That'd be nice to do it with us.
Yeah.
Oh, he
There was a
did?
great write-up
Yeah.
in the newspaper, did you
Oh,
see
I
it?
saw that, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind knowing, and like, how many hours are they actually spending there? And how many, you know what I mean?
Good.
And, the DLS thing I had down here, you already answered that, I have something else and I can't read it.
Oh, so what do we have, just, Joe, what further do we have to do with the DLS thing? Is it all,
Nothing.
is it all done?
We have to make sure they have the right two practices.
I have spoken with them, and he has assured me that
Because
they
it
do,
it would be
yes.
embarrassing when the lieutenant governor comes if the compact's not worded correctly.
But you
So,
saw that
I
email,
thought
you're
we were
questioning
supposed to
it.
do 3 things that we're supposed to improve, is that correct?
We voted on.
Only 2?
We voted
No,
on
I
2.
know, but I thought that the deal was you had to do 3.
No, you have to do 1.
Oh, okay.
Mike?
Oh,
So I would ask,
when they have somebody to to recommend, yes.
So if you could ask Park and Rec if they have any individuals any people, then we have to set up a joint meeting so we can appoint them
Or do we want
to the next election cycle, correct?
Until the next election.
Do we advertise that or not?
Yeah, I will.
Well, let's see if they have somebody, if they have, well, whatever, either way.
both.
Either way is fine.
Check with them first, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's something else I wanted to remember. If it comes up, I would ask you.
Any further stuff to do next time?
My things were covered.
Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Thank you all for getting through a lot of stuff tonight.